Oh, sure.
Okay, good evening, everybody. We'll call the March 7th Town of Rochester Town Board regular business meeting to order. Just stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You do the roll call, please.
Councilman Holman?
Here.
Councilwoman Newbrow? Here. Councilwoman Allen? Here. Councilwoman Sneesa? Here. Supervisor Lee?
Here. Acceptance of the agenda. Town board accepts the agenda as prepared by the town supervisor. Stop there.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Okay, our first order of business will be a presentation by our assessor, Jeremy Baraka. And Cindy, is it Bear? Okay, I see you're nodding.
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay, from, do you say GAR or GAR?
GAR Associates?
GAR Associates, okay. Jeremy, you want to come join us, or you're welcome to stay there if you'd like, or however you want to do it. If you want to bring a chair and set up the table here. So as you'll remember, and we budgeted for, Jeremy had talked to us last year about considering a revaluation. It's been quite a period of time since we have done one. I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy and let him go from there.
Okay, so 2.5 years since I've become the assessor here. Noticed a lot of discrepancies in the assessment role, inequities and whatnot. The only way to really correct them is to downright now. So that's why we're here tonight to basically talk with GAR, who would give us information about doing the townwide reval and looking at all the properties throughout the town, collecting all the data in order to put proper assessments on everything. Guess I wanted to see what Cindy has to say.
Yeah, and just for the board, this is the company that is many communities in Ulster County either are using or have used in the past. Jeremy is recommending that this be the company that we consider, and so we've asked Cindy to sort of make a presentation on what they can offer and go from there. So thank you for joining us tonight, Cindy.
Oh, of course. Thanks for having me. I thought I would just give you kind of a brief overview of how we approach reassessment. Just a little background. I've been with the company for 36 years. We have an office in Albany, an office in Western New York. We cover the entire state of New York, from Potsdam to Westchester to Jamestown and everything in between. So 100% of our projects have been certified by New York State. They agree with our values. And obviously that's extremely important when you're making a large investment into this process. I talked to Jeremy about, the process and how important it is to good data in, good data out. So good property inventory data and spending the money on creating that is invaluable, because going forward, then Jeremy can do a lot of the work if you want to update, on a cycle in the future, annually or whatever. But you have to start with really good property inventory data, and it changes. People put up, additions, they do things without permits, whatever, land usage changes, things of that nature. So it's a good idea, and it's recommended by ORPS, by New York State, and by the IAAO, the International Association of Assessing Officers, that you update your inventory on a regular basis. So once you have a really good, solid inventory base, your assessor typically can keep that up going forward. Can do a little review properties annually, look at different things, permits, sales, transactions, but you have to really start with a very good base. So we've done a lot of work down in, just helped the city of Newburgh recently. We did Kingston several years ago and helped them maintain their assessments. We've done work in Mamaroneck, Rensselaer, Columbia County. We work with the county there. So we're very familiar with lots of different, communities and property types, waterfront, rural, seasonal properties, things of that nature. So, none of that is a stranger to us. We've done large cities like the city of Buffalo, Niagara Falls, Saratoga Springs. I mean, we've done that as well, but there's nuances obviously with communities such as yours. But I'm just going to very briefly describe the process so you have an idea. It starts with public relations. It starts with your residents to make sure that they are informed what's going on. They understand what the process is. We have educational videos. We do outreach. We make sure that they understand the process and how it's going to be done. Since the pandemic and with technology, we've had a lot of success with using aerial imagery and collecting inventory data. We can look at side views, we can spin around the house. There's a lot of resistance to let strangers on your property. So using this type of technology allows us to gather the inventory we need and gather the data that we need without being, obtrusive to the property owner, without any security issues, we get really, really good results. So the majority of our process when we collect the property inventory is done through aerial imagery. We can do a new digital sketch. The property photographs, though, obviously would have to be done at a street level. And I know that you have, some rural roads and things of that nature. We do the best we can to get the best images that we can. But we can also use Google, where there's a lot of other resources. So we have a lot of other means to get, as images that we can. Collect the data. Then when the data is all collected, entered on the RPS file, we then send either a data survey out to the property owners and they can validate what we've done. We also use, Newburgh just implemented an online assessment website where they can go on and look at all the inventory. They can look at all the assessments. That everything is public and very transparent. But we can do a couple different ways after the inventory is collected and uploaded to the RPS file. Then we move into valuation, and we work very closely with the assessor, and we develop valuation models. It is mass appraisal, so it's not an individual appraisal on every property like you would have for a bank appraisal, but we develop models. We run a lot of statistics. We are in the range. We, encourage property owners to think of it as, is this reasonable? Does this, value seem reasonable based on the sales? Because it's all market driven, whatever the sales are. So we go into valuation. From valuation, Jeremy would approve all the values. He gets to review them all. Then we would mail a new notice out to all the property owners and tell them, what the new assessment is, a hypothetical, a tax implication, if these new assessments were available and online in a previous budget year, what you could expect. There's going to be folks that are going to see an increase, some see a decrease, some see not much change at all. That's just the basic premise of a reval is we don't raise more tax dollars with this. It's a redistribution. We just make sure that folks are being assessed fairly, that they're only paying their fair share, no more, no less. Another very important point is all the exemptions that are tied to assessments, such as the STAR exemption, is increased to the maximum amount. So if, let's say, for example, Jeremy, I don't know what your current basic STAR is, but it's 25,000, 20,000, it would go up to the 30,000. For the enhanced STAR exemption for the seniors, it goes up to the maximum amount. So folks think that, that, oh my gosh, my STAR, every year they see it depleting a little bit because of that equalization rate. This takes the exemption to the max. So that's very important. And we do a lot of education on that. We do web videos. We explain the process. Then there's an informal, once they get all their new notices, there's an informal review period. They'll have an opportunity to challenge that assessment if they don't agree with it, ask questions about it. We have trained, skilled staff that answer phone calls, help people through the process. We have a website, as I mentioned, Newburgh instituted this new pros website where folks can go on, they can look at the assessments, they can look at sales. Everything is very, very transparent. Then if they're not satisfied after the informal review process, they can still go on to the grievance board and challenge it through their regular, annual grievance process. So they have two opportunities in a reassessment year to challenge that assessment. And then once the roll is final on July 1st, whatever year that may be, those would be the values that would be used for school taxes in September, town and county in January. So there's deadlines, there's processes, but it's very transparent, very fluid. Property owners are made aware of what's going on. Nobody's entering their home. Nobody's entering their property. The only time that if we can't figure something out from the aerial imagery, we usually ask the assessor to go because they feel a lot more comfortable with the assessor knocking on their door than a stranger. So, if there's something we can't figure out, or we'll go with Jeremy, we'll say, hey, we got to go look at this parcel. We've just run into in the past few years that you have to be very careful about, those told trespassing and entering people's properties without authorization. So, we've had a lot of success with the aerial imagery. You'll have all new digital sketches. You'll have all new digital photos. You'll have a great base for Jeremy to continue on. And when you want to update, whether it's every couple of years, if you want to do it annually, at least that base is there. And the models can be updated very easily. All of our projects have been 100% certified by New York State. We send them a file before the notices go out. We make sure they agree that we're at 100%. So that, the board knows and residents know that we've made this investment and we are, at 100% of full market value. So we instituted that policy a few years ago, and now the New York State Office of Real Property Services is one of their policies because they want the town boards and the assessor to know that you are meeting that 100% equalization. So that's kind of a broad overview of how we do this and what the process is. It's usually an 18-month to 2-year process, and we work very closely with boards on payment plans for budgeting purposes. It is professional services. You don't have to RFP for it. A lot of boards do, but that RFP process takes a couple months, and it belabors a little bit. But your town attorney would tell you that, you can, it's like hiring an attorney for the town. You don't have to bid that, but it's entirely up to the board. Any questions for me?
I have one question. Does New York State still offer the so much per parcel when you go back to the full?
Well, here's the problem. Several years ago, they shrunk that aid budget down to $750,000 for the entire state of New York, not including, the boroughs, and not including the islands. So if the city of Buffalo decides they want to do a reassessment, they get paid first. They have 100,000 parcels, they get $500,000. So, and then the balance is left for everybody else. So if you're doing it for the aid, you might get.
I was just curious if we should consider that. Because I remember the last time we did it, we did get, I believe at that time it was $3 a parcel or $4 a parcel.
Yeah, it's about $1 now. At the end of the day, unfortunately, that's just. And they used to have a program that was $5 every year if you kept up the assessments, which was very lucrative for the towns, and that pretty much funded, the project. But of course, that went away. yeah, that's not available.
Understood.
Mhm.
Board, any questions?
I don't think I have any, because we've gotten the information in the backup for this.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked separately.
Yeah, Jeremy, do you want to add anything to this?
You could just run down some of the stuff that jumped out at me why revale needed. So again, property data, very wrong. Land classifications and finding are very wrong. Wasteland should be residual or undeveloped. The way the model values things seems like it's set up one way, but not everything is input in RPS the way that it's set up to value things. Waterfront properties, they're not properly addressed in a lot of parcels here in the town. Mobile homes, they're not entered correctly into RPS. A lot of them, anything built after 76 should be really put on as a site rather than an improvement. And there's just a few other item things there. Effective year built was a big thing I'm finding. We have a lot of these old 1700s, 1800 stone houses, and that's all they show is 1700, no effective year built. They've been beautifully renovated with high-end materials in 2010 or something. So just some of the issues I've come across there.
I will add that we do all the parcels. So it's all parcels in rural section 1, which is taxable. Rural section 6, which are your utility values, but we do the land and buildings. The New York State will provide poles and wires, inventory values, and all of those things. And we also do rural section 8. And we have to do everything. And there are a lot of uses of the equalization rate and a lot of uses for full value assessment. I'm not, totally educated on all of that. However, I have heard from other municipalities that all those things, it can be insurance ratings, can help you with your bond ratings, with accurate full value assessment. I don't know how the county shares sales tax revenue. In some counties, it's based on total assessed value.
And
And
we are that case. It is
yes,
based on assessed value.
yes. And right now what they do is they just
Yeah, I
divide
will
your-
say though, it's equalized assessed value.
Yes, equalized. And that's fine. However, but the equalization rate is not always very accurate. So having a full value project is a more accurate number that the county would use to apportion that sales tax revenue. So I can't guarantee that. All I can say is it will be a more accurate number than just equalizing the values. And it's all, like I said, it's your roll section. Everything gets valued, everything.
I do have one more question. So with you're talking an 18-month to 2-year, 24-month process, would it be done in stages or would you do the entire reval and then it would go on the next set of assessed rolls?
Well, there's legal dates. We have to value properties as of July 1st. So for example, if you signed a contract in May, let's say, and we would do the data verification and cleanup in 24. In 25, we would do the valuation. All the new values would then go March 1st, they would be mailed to property owners in 26, and they would be finalized in July 1st of 26. So you would have, that would be the timeline. We have to work with these legal dates, with the calendar. And the property, if you went with that calendar, the property values would be determined as of July 1st of 25. So whatever the sales through that point would be what we use. They would be mailed in March 1st of 26, but the values would be determined as of that date. There's a whole bunch of legal dates that we have to abide by. So, and then the new values would then hit for the school tax levy in September of 26, town and county in January of 27. So that's kind of just a rough calendar for you.
Okay. Go ahead.
What are the next steps if we are interested in working with you on doing this process?
Well, if you don't need to go to RFP, I can put together a formal proposal I can send that to Jeremy. You guys can review that. I have a professional services agreement that has been reviewed by multiple municipal attorneys that I can forward. And that would be, after the proposal and Jeremy, agrees to all the services that we're going to provide, then we would go to the contract. And once that contract is signed, then the project would start.
Cindy, how many firms approximately do you think could do this kind of work within the state of New York? And
So
of
that-
those, how many other
Admit-
firms,
Oh,
how many
okay.
other firms do you think could do this work? And could you tell us what would be like your one thing that puts you above those other firms? What is the reason for contracting with you on this?
There are about 3 or 4 New York State firms. We do it full-time. We have a full-time department. We've done it for 60 years. There are some individuals that do these projects and then subcontract a lot of the work out. There are some national firms, but quite frankly, they are only interested in the big ticket items, the big cities and things like that. So there's probably 3 or 4 firms that, you would potentially could. And then there's some individuals that are consultants that will get projects, but they sub everything out to other people. Does that answer? Did I answer that
Yeah.
properly? Oh, what sets us apart? What sets us apart is our public relations. We do an excellent job of community outreach, and transparency. We have a staff of New York State licensed and certified appraisers on staff. My partner, who was supposed to be here tonight, but he had an emergency, he is an MAI, which is a designation from the Appraisal Institute, the national firm. So we have lots of folks that have been working with us for 10, 15 years that have extensive experience in modeling. We work very, very closely with the New York State Office of Real Property Services. We do a lot of projects and we have regular meetings with them. We, communicate with them often so that they are kept abreast of what we're doing. They are like your auditor. So for your purposes, they kind of oversee what we're doing. They make sure that we're following all their rules and regs, that they're comfortable with everything. Like I said, they test the file before we finalize those values. And we have a great working relationship with them. And 100% of our projects have been certified. I don't think that other vendors can say that. We're very familiar with RPS, the software that the assessors have to use. That's pretty much exclusively what we deal with. We have our own property website that would be used in this project. So folks, I know you have a lot of, I know, but I assume you have a lot of seasonal residents. So they can go on the website, they can research information, they can file an informal review. We have a portal that does that. So we offer kind of a full service, and we do it full time. We have a full-time staff. And so that is our, I think, competitive edge.
Great.
Through the project. Mhm.
Cindy, when you talk about, the community relations, would that be through letters? Would you hold a community meeting? Or maybe both, or what types of community outreach would there be?
We like to customize the public relations to your community. So your community, your residents, what works, how they like to interact with what's going on in town. We've had a lot of success, because of the pandemic, I have to say, with a lot of web videos. Folks can go on and watch them whenever they want. We do podcasts. We, interview Jeremy. We talk to him about the process. But we also, if you want us to meet with the seniors, if you have a senior citizens group, if you have a business association that you'd like us to meet with, we'd be happy to do that. Whatever, you feel your community needs, we will adjust to that.
Any other? Thank you. We appreciate your time very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
We'll talk about this in the next couple meetings. We'll get feedback from Jeremy and, you know, we'll be in touch very soon, one way or the other. Is
Okay.
there, when you were talking about the time frame, when you were saying a contract in May, is that kind of a drop dead time in order to get it done by the 2026?
No, I think if we're, you know, between May and July, if something's, you know, and I wouldn't go past July because we need
Okay.
that time for the data.
Understood.
One thing I do want to spin off of what Jeremy said about the land. We do a complete land verification. So we look at every land, improved and vacant. And we make sure that all the dimensions are correct. You talked about, you know, waterfront, the usage, that type of thing. We do that's very, very important, especially in a community like yours. We want to make sure that the land is precious and everybody wants land. So we got to make sure that everything is correct on those land records. So that is a huge part of the process as well.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Jeremy. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, we will move to our next agenda item, which is a discussion of the request by the Ulster County Magistrates Association for the CAP Court. I see Kyle Barnett has just joined us. He is a town justice from the town of Esopus. Judge Plum, do you want to come join us? And so Kyle, this was what I brought to you last week. Kyle, you are the president, or you are the past president?
I'm the, thank you all for taking the time to speak with me this evening. I'm actually the past president. I was the president last year, and the reason why I've been maintaining this committee is because I kind of got this whole project started, or at least got it running. I wouldn't say I got it started, but I certainly was interested in keeping it going. And so this was kind of a carryover project for me. And that's kind of been the role I've been playing since. So I sort of volunteered myself.
So for a little background, there was a countywide or county meeting yesterday that I attended, which included some of the police chiefs. Kyle was there. Dave Delahunt from the Office of Court Administration was there. He is our regional representative. The sheriff, the county executive, a number of people. I wanted to invite Justice Laflamme and Kyle to sort of talk to you a little bit more. Since last week, some new information has come out, some new things. Mary Lou has been involved to some degree. So Kyle, let me turn it over to you first, and then we can go from there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I know you guys have a long agenda this evening, so I'm going to try to be as brief as possible, but I do welcome any questions anyone has following this. So first, I think it's important just to get sort of an overview on where we've been and where we are now. So what happened was, and why CAP is so critically important for Ulster County. What happened was about 2.5, 3 years ago, what we started seeing as magistrates in our county was a problem beginning to brew, particularly in terms of making sure that defendants were being represented at arraignment on either on new charges or on warrants. And the reason why that sort of started to become critical just over the last few years is a few years ago, the Court of Appeals, which is the highest court in the state of New York, affirmed that the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution requires all defendants to be represented at critical stages of criminal proceedings. And one of those critical stages is the arraignment for a whole bunch of reasons. Obviously, at that particular point in time, judges are also making a determination as to whether or not the defendant can remain at liberty or has to be incarcerated while the case is pending, or bail has to be set. And while some of that discretion or a lot of that discretion has been taken away by judges over the years, there's still a fair amount of discretion and certainly a need to have that defendant's voice heard at the arraignment. Another critical thing about it is why that's a critical stage is when a lot of these defendants, they don't understand criminal law. They don't know what peril they're in. And so if it's just them standing there at the arraignment without the benefit of counsel, what do most people do? A lot of them start talking, and a lot of them start saying things that probably are not in their interest. And many of them will do it even if you tell them not to. So it's just the nature of the way things were. So understandably, the Court of Appeals said, hey, listen, a lawsuit was brought on this issue, and the people that brought the lawsuit won. And that case is called Hurrell Harron. And that case basically says that there must be defense attorneys at arraignments, at the arraignments of new charges and warrants. All right. So as a result, Ulster County and a lot of other counties created a system stands for CAFA. But the bottom line is it's a system that was designed to have on-call attorneys available for arraignments after hours, because obviously getting an attorney during the normal business hours isn't really a problem. But once you get to those, but a lot of people tend to get arrested around 2 to 4 o'clock in the morning. And so what we needed certain judges that would be on call. So this way, what would happen is the process would go something like this. Judge gets a call at 2 a.m. by a police agency. Hey, judge, we arrested so-and-so. We need to do an arraignment. Judge then goes to his list of attorneys. Or one attorney really is assigned to the particular court at that time, and tries to reach that defense attorney and say, hey, are you available to come out for an arraignment? And that attorney then shows up and is paid for out of the public defender's budget for appearing there. Not much, unfortunately, but anyway, which is part of the problem. But that's the way it's supposed to work. Well, so what we saw a few years ago, is that fewer and fewer attorneys were willing to sign up for that assignment. And many attorneys who did sign up for it wouldn't answer their phones or would be available to do those arraignments, forcing a lot of judges, including myself, in the precarious situation of going forward with arraignments without that defense attorney there, thus violating the defendant's Sixth Amendment rights. So what we decided to do to address this issue, because at that point it was not to the critical mass that we're seeing now, but we could see it coming. And then the other problem was, quite frankly, because of the onerous situation that a lot of these restrictions there's other restrictions that have come on in terms of how these justice courts operate over the years. It's certainly not like it was when I started practicing law 25 years ago as a prosecutor. It was a lot more of an informal process. It's gotten a lot more formal. And, unfortunately, as a result of that, you have some judges who just don't make themselves available regardless of the situation. So it was just becoming more and more of a challenging, a burden on everybody. So what we decided to do, and in fact, when I first became a judge a little over 4 years ago, Ulster County magistrates, they were against CAP. They had some concerns about it that were really unrealistic. And myself and a few other judges really saw CAP as an opportunity to correct what we all saw issues that were coming down the road. So a few years ago, we decided that we really need to do something about this problem, or it was going to get worse. And in fact, it was actually going to become a crisis, which is where we are now. CAP, essentially, what that means is it stands for Central Arraignment Part. And so after the Hurrell Harding decision came out, the state legislature passed legislation to allow for what's called these central arraignment parts, or these CAPs. And what that means is, what happens under these CAP programs is you have a bunch of judges who just sign up. They're going to sign up and they volunteer to serve in the CAP court. The CAP court then operates between the hours of, it's in our CAP plan precisely what the hours are, but there's like 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours or so in the evening after the close of business, where CAP court would theoretically would operate. And if people got arrested during off hours when the CAP was not open, they would be held at the law enforcement center until the CAP court went into session the following morning. I think it's like 7:30, and then would get arraigned. And some of them, they might, regardless of what the charges are, they might be major felony crimes. They might be crimes where orders of protection are needed, which is also a critically important when you have no charges. But that's when and the nice thing about that is then you would be able to have a defense attorney who is also assigned to the CAP court that would be present to make sure that defendant had effective and qualified representation. And it would alleviate the issue of trying to find an attorney in the middle of the night to stand in for the arraignment, or the possibility of a judge putting themselves in the precarious position of doing an arraignment without an attorney. So why it's become critical is because at this point, right now, unfortunately, that problem that we saw 3 years ago has now reached crisis stage. Right now, only maybe 1/3 of the county has a public defender available after hours. And that means there's huge swaths of Ulster County for which there is no public defender. So now what's happening is the judges in Ulster County are saying, wait a minute, we're not going to take on the liability or interfere with the defendant's rights. So if we can't get a defense attorney, we're not going to do the arraignment. And that's putting now an additional burden on law enforcement, because many of these law enforcement officers are now stuck trying to find a judge and an attorney to be able to do the arraignment, or they're stuck holding the person throughout the night, and then they don't have the facilities to do that, or they have to let the person just go. And in some cases that could be dangerous, particularly if there's an order of protection needed or the person's charged with a very serious crime. So that's where we're at right now. It's gotten so critical that, as the supervisor indicated before, law enforcement called a meeting to see where things were in terms of the progress with CAP court. Why has CAP taken this long? CAP has taken this long at this point in time because there were a lot of bureaucratic hurdles that we had to overcome before we could even put in the application, including building the court. So we had to get grant money to build the court. That court has now been fully built. We had to get grant money to do the holding cell. The holding cell has been built. All that's taken care of. We had to put together a CAP plan, which is an outline or a document as to how CAP would work in our county. We had to also get what's called memorandums of understanding, which is one of the reasons why I'm here this evening. The memorandums of understanding are required by all towns that have some sort of police department or peace officer assigned to that particular town. And that basically that's critically important, because originally we were told if we can't get MOUs from every one of the towns, and this was one of the reasons we were kind of stuck in neutral for about 6 or 7 months, unfortunately, lost some seriously critical time as a result of that, because had that not happened, CAP would be in place right now, and we would not be in the crisis we're in right now. But originally we were told, oh, if we don't have complete unanimity, CAP won't go forward. We're done. And so I've been on the phone with Dave Delahunt and many others for the past several months, trying to explain to them, listen, if we can't get this done, we're going to have this crisis on our hands, the crisis that I just described. And I think there was not, I don't know if there was necessarily, I don't know, people were very receptive. I felt at first, maybe they felt that I was overstating the problem. Well, now they've learned that I was actually understating the problem, because now Dave Delahunt and others are getting complaints from others. I think you might have saw the newspaper. There was a piece done in the Mid-Hudson News also by law enforcement on this issue. And it really is a crisis. It's an emergency. I can't understate it at this point. And so once that happened, we actually got some action out of OCA, because I got to the point where I was gonna do a letter to the entire law enforcement agency and say, listen, fellas, I'm sorry. It doesn't look like CAP's going to happen, and here's the reason why. And that unfortunately, that kind of lit a fire once that got the draft worked its way through. And lo and behold, now we got a ruling from OCA that we can move forward, even if there isn't unanimity. And the reason why there's not unanimity is because, as I don't know if some of you have heard, but the town of Ulster has decided, for reasons that they choose, and it's not, and I'm not, I got to be careful. I'm not criticizing town of Ulster, and they have every right to not participate in CAP for whatever reason they choose not to participate in CAP. I don't think it has anything to do with CAP, but that's besides the point. I think it has something to do with other things, but that's as far as I'm going to go with that. I have total, that's they're not, people were starting to blame Ulster. Ulster's not to blame. In my opinion, I think OCA was a little bit to blame because they didn't move quickly enough on getting us the answers that we needed. So anyway, so now Ulster is not going to be part of the CAP board, at least now. I think eventually they're going to join in the next few months, quite frankly, because they're going to realize that it's really in their interest to do so. But for now, we got that ruling. However, OCA has also told me, and Mike can verify this because he heard it himself from the guy who's in charge of who's our liaison with OCA, Office of Court Administration, that if Ulster doesn't participate in CAP, neither can their judges participate in the CAP court. And the judges participate by, like I said before, each of us, sign up for a period of time, whether it's a morning or an afternoon. And when we're on call, we're the person that has to go to the CAP court and handle those arrangements in the morning or in the afternoon, wherever we've, put ourselves on the schedule. And then there also has to be a backup person. If something happens to one of us, there has to be someone else who can step in and fill in. So this way, there's never a shortage or an issue in terms of having CAP staffed by judges. And they'll also be staffed by clerks too, which is something benefit we don't have for after-hour arraignments. So that's the way it's going to happen. And unfortunately, so as a result, if a town with a police department or peace officers doesn't sign the memorandum of understanding, that's fine. They don't have to. But then what's going to happen is, if there are any arrests that occur within that jurisdiction, and then the judges that are assigned to that jurisdiction will remain on call 24/7 to handle those arraignments, for the following morning, assuming, of course, the public defender can get found. And so, I've heard from the public defender, if it's one or two towns, she's assured us that she can certainly staff that. The 20-something towns in the county is not going to work, but one or two towns, I think she feels confident that she can certainly handle that if need be. So that's the reason why I'm here, because I understand what I didn't know while we were going through this process is I thought I had all the towns with police departments. When I submitted those MOUs to Dave Delahunt at OCA, he brought to my attention that the town of Rochester has constables, and constables, whether they do arrest or not, whether the town wants them to do arrests or not, have the theoretical power to do arrests, as I understand it, that they observe. I think there's a distinction between police officers and peace officers. I think the peace officer, the crime has to actually occur in front of them for them to be able to make a warrantless arrest, is my understanding. And I think it's CPL 2 point something. But thank you. So as a result of that, OCA is requiring any town, and whether it makes sense or it doesn't make sense, because I understand what Mike was saying. Well, why is it that other towns without law enforcement agencies don't have to sign the memorandum of understanding? Yet, if there's an arrest that occurs there, those defendants will be eligible for CAP. That's what OCA is telling us. And here's the critical point. We're at a very important stage. This application was submitted, as Mike will tell you, we just submitted this application yesterday. It's fully done. The CAP plan's done. All the MOUs are done. The photos, I got to get them all. I had to get them photos up and down to the court and the jail. And the other attachments and exhibits to the CAP plan has been submitted. Everything is in, except for an MOU from the town of Rochester, which I'd like to be able to deliver to OCA tomorrow, quite frankly, because that application is going up to the OCA administrative office, where the OCA council then approves it, and it goes then to the administrative committee, and then they vote on it, and then they approve it. That's almost the pro forma. we already know OCA council is going to allow us to move forward because we've already gotten that advice. So the stamp is almost ministerial from administrative committee, but nevertheless, it's a step required. And so, because the train is kind of leaving the station, I want, and I understand, like I said, Rochester's late to the game. That's not anybody's fault, but ours. We didn't know that because there was a constabulary, we had to get an MOU from the town. But that's where we're at. And I really want. I'd like the town of Rochester. I want every town to participate. I really do, because it's so important for the defendants to have that representation. And it's also one less question mark that I've got to address in terms of dealing with OCA. We had to come up with, we had to make assurances. The public defender had to make assurances with Ulster that she'd be able to staff a PD, and it just created another headache, and it would just make all our lives a lot easier, including, I believe, the town of Rochester would benefit from it if you guys were able to join. And I understand there's some reservations about that. I'm hopeful that we can maybe discuss whatever we need to discuss to sort of assuage any of those issues, get this MOU done, and then we're fully submitted. And I think, and I'm hopeful, I think at this point, we can have this cap up and running within 3 months' time. And boy, do we need it. Because like I said, everything's done. The only other step after the application's accepted and we're approved, between now and then, they're going to put the IT equipment that's necessary in the court. That's got to get installed. There's training. I've already spoken to Dave Delahunt. I told him, let's get the training done while we're waiting for the acceptance. So this way, once that acceptance comes in, we can hit the ground running. So with that, if there's any questions, comments or concerns, I'd be happy to take it.
Let me just let Judge LaFlamme say it, and then the board has any questions.
Well, I have a question, and then I can answer your questions at a personal level in terms of what happens in town of Rochester, which is we do not have a public defender. I will not do an arraignment without a public defender present. So it is a serious problem. Kyle, when you were talking about what happens if town of Rochester doesn't sign the MOU, all of its arraignments then stay within, so anything that happens within its jurisdiction after hours is handled by myself or Judge Alba.
Correct.
And they're not brought up to cap or anything. So it's the usual thing. We're called out of bed, and we theoretically will have a public defender, because we have one now. It's a name on a piece of paper, and it's worth about as much as that piece of paper.
Totally. Yeah. No, absolutely.
To clarify, it also will involve sheriff and state police within our jurisdiction. I did make appeal. I said in the meeting yesterday, I said, this makes absolutely no sense.
No.
Why does one have?
Is that true?
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Any
Yeah,
arrest.
true.
Any arrest.
Any arrest. And that's true. And as Judge LaFlamme saying, I mean, even there's nights. Yeah. I mean, even now, right now, my jurisdiction, I only have a public defender 2 weeks out of the month. So those other 2 weeks, I take the call, and we get calls from all the other jurisdictions, right? Because they're calling Lloyd, they're calling Kingston, they're calling Ulster. None of us have a public defender. So my phone's going off, 4 times a night, and I'm saying it's the same thing. I'm sorry, we can't help you, and sometimes that happens even when my public defender is purportedly on duty. I can't reach them, So it's a horrible. And yes, Mike made the pitch and said, well, hey, why does that matter if it's a sheriff or state? And Mr. Delahunt made it quite clear, it doesn't matter.
If I can interrupt for a second. I'm Mary Lou Christian. I'm the attorney for the town.
I'm
Justice Barnett. And I did talk to Dave Delahunt today because of just what Mike was saying. This doesn't make sense. And I think that his answer was actually explained very well by Justice Barnett. And it's the whole order of this. That's why we can't participate as our justices in the cap unless we participate fully. to me, it does make sense. I was kind of scratching my head like Mike was initially, but it's just that order thing of, okay, our two judges are stuck there on call all the time looking for defense attorneys. And
Not finding him.
it's just a really tough situation. And the defendants, of course, are entitled to representation. We can't take away their Sixth Amendment rights, and we don't want to, obviously. We want to be, fair and just. And I listened, you guys all have a memo from me that I wrote this afternoon or late this morning. I hope you all got to read it, but I'm not sure because I know you all have jobs outside of this one. But basically what this agreement is doing is we're saying we agree that should our constables make an arrest, they will bring the detainee to the Ulster County Jail, where they will then be arraigned or whatever, domestic, maybe for a restraining order before CAT. I don't know that our constables have ever made an arrest. The odds that they're going to make an arrest, unless they come across something, very slim. But boy, if they have to, do we want them being held in that little holding room in court? Then you have to have somebody there the whole time. You have to attend to any medical they might need in the meantime. To me, this agreement makes sense. Judge LaFawn, please feel free to agree or disagree.
It absolutely makes sense. And especially if they do an arrest, then if they're taken to the law enforcement center, they're going to be fingerprinted appropriately. They're going to be, the matter's going to be worked up according to the way it should. The complaint's going to be done the way it should. I mean, there are many moving pieces before the defendant comes before me. Each one of those pieces has to be performed accurately, or it affects, what we do and what we can do.
I believe the agreement says that
Okay,
we're to do the fingerprinting, et cetera. Is that correct, Judge
You
Burnett?
fingerprint them and then you fingerprint it and then you bring them.
Mary
Right.
Emily has a question. I'm not sure if it's for you or for Judge LaFawn.
Anybody, I just want to make sure I understand. So our constables don't conduct arrests, but you are being woken up in the middle of the night because this
State
covers
troopers,
state.
sheriffs,
Okay.
Ellen.
They have to bring someone, if they arrest someone in this jurisdiction, they have to bring.
It's not just the town of Rochester, it is any contingent town.
Okay.
So where we have contiguous property, then like Warsaw. I don't do Warsaw. I won't go down that road. But
You'll get the call.
I'll get the call. Well, not anymore, but I used to get called or Warsaw. Like I would get 2 Warsaw calls for every town of Rochester call.
However, like Worsing or Ellenville has signed on to this, so Ellenville would now be transferred.
Right, Warsaw there's no more Ellenville. Right, so everybody now goes, and Warsaw is signed, so now everybody goes.
And then if we're in charge of conducting fingerprints, who's in charge of that? Who conducts those?
And they're arresting.
The arresting
agency.
All right, then I think it makes sense for the state and state troopers and the sheriff. I have serious concerns about the constables having the ability to make arrests for vehicle and traffic law and warrantless arrests. I feel like I would just be afraid that I want to make sure that if we participate in this, we're not expanding their power in any way. And I hope that that's an issue that this town can work on separately. That's very scary.
The power to make warrantless arrests is found in CPL section 145. And
I have it pulled up.
Right, so you look at I don't have my
And-
memo in front of me.
and
There's a section that says outside of their special duties, because what happens is the employing municipality sets up the special duties. If you say you can't make arrests, then they can't make arrests.
That was going to be my
Except
question.
You cannot foreclose the statute because it's legislative. New York State says that They're constables or peace officers. If they witness a crime, if it happens in front of them, then they can make that arrest, whether it's a violation, whether it's a misdemeanor, whether it happens under the penal law or the vehicle and traffic law. It's baked into the statute that they have that. You're shaking your head, I can. You have the.
No, I believe you. I read it.
You
I
have
saw
the
your memo.
statute.
I looked at the
Yes.
statute. I see that it's
Then
law.
it says,
It's a
if they
shocking
have
law.
if they have reason to believe a felony has been not created, they'll create felonies, committed, then they have the ability to arrest for the felony.
But-
And that happens in their geographical area or outside.
But the special duties.
Yeah,
that
anywhere
they-
in the state, anywhere in the state.
But the special duties that we assign them are their job description, we as the employer. But as they've said, if they are in witness of, no matter whether we say they can or can't, they are witness of as a sworn peace officer in New York State, they can make that.
Right.
So, but
So-
there's no way for us to not get, short of disbanding the constables.
Right.
There is no way for us to take that.
So,
Don't
Yeah.
get felonies.
Emily, we
Reason
are
to
not
believe.
expanding their powers
no, I understand that.
in the
It's-
least. However, we don't have control over what the state says they can and
right.
cannot
So
do.
We say we
And-
need a constable to deal with traffic on, at the Pine Dude Ranch. We are now giving them, by appointing them to conduct traffic control, we are also allowing them to make warrantless arrests.
They're always allowed to make warrantless arrests while
Right.
they're on. They could be in the
Just
court,
by
they could be
existing,
in
we're
their
saying
building
they're-
and someone
By
comes
giving
in
them
and
a
a crime.
job, by
They
giving
must,
them,
it's,
That is,
they have not it because.
I mean,
You know,
police
have to
officers,
see
they are allowed, they see it, so it could happen if they're sitting in the parking lot, walking out to their
Right,
car.
no,
and
I'm just
so-
saying by us having them as assistants, no matter how limited their duties as assigned by us, the
Right.
employer.
Yeah,
If they're
this-
banned, they'll always be.
Should they find a crime, they can make an arrest. To give you something like way out there, but I suppose that could happen. You could have, one of the things they're allowed to do is serve informations on behalf of the building department. So they go to a house, they knock on the door, and there's somebody who's really an idiot, and they answer the door, and the constable says, "Oh my God, it's a meth lab." Right? They're probably going to make an arrest. I hope they'll also call the state police and the sheriff.
I
To
understand. Thank you.
But but that's something they're allowed to do. So to your question about expansion, we're not expanding their abilities to make arrests at all. This is just really
can remove-
transportation and getting them in front of a court for their arraignment.
So I
And we should.
have two questions. So one, can we sign the MOU at a later point in time, or if we don't sign it today, do we lose our chance to sign it? And second, if we sign it, just please let me ask the question. If we sign it, can we sign it without having the town constabulary listed in that document and still support CAT?
The answer to the first question is, if you guys want to join at some later point in time, I'm that door will always be open. At this point, that our application is being processed. So when it gets approved, it's going to get approved of just the ones who are signatories to the MOU. If at some later point in time, you guys decide, same thing with Ulster. If they want to, I think in probably several months, they'll realize they probably should join, and I think they will. And maybe not, who knows? But I think they will in several months because for a bunch of reasons. But and same thing, if you guys want to join in several months, I'm sure at that point in time, the door will always be open. But not. It's not like if the application's in it gets approved and then all of a sudden you guys want to join it. There's going to be. Trust me, having done this and having it taken 3 years to get to this point, there's going to be a lag if you're not.
Kyle, just to clarify, the communities who do not have a police agency are automatically included. They don't sign anything. I just want to be clear, correct?
That is correct. That is correct. And then that is correct. So that's the answer to the first question. And I think that answers the second question. If I recall, what was the second question?
Can we sign it without having the constabulary listed?
No,
That's the kind of the whole point, is to have our
yeah,
law enforcement agency be able to bring detainees to Kingston.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and
It doesn't mean that the judges can participate, but the constables can't.
right.
It's all or nothing. I have a question, Justice Barnett.
Well, Councilman Coleman, you still.
Let's let Michael finish.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I thought he was done. I
No, it's
apologize,
okay.
Michael.
I just wanted to clarify. I'm supportive of Kat. I think the process is important. I'm supportive of the justices. I want you to have these opportunities. I think the biggest concern that I have is making sure that the town is protected. Like, do we have the correct liability insurance if we're going to be transporting people that have been arrested, across the county? B, do the residents and people understand the distinction between the functions of the constabulary versus if there's an emergency and calling 911 and having, county or state officials? Because what I don't want to have is confusion in people's minds where if they call the constabulary, or they should be calling the constabulary in the case of an emergency and not dialing 911 and having law enforcement, because these are part-time employees. They're not necessarily on call. So I just want to make sure that we understand before we sign this what the second and third order effects are of this. Sorry.
well, on that question, what I would say is, I mean, if that's my concern. I mean, if you sign it now, then it's probably going to be 2 or 3 months before this court's up and running, which ought to give you guys plenty of time to make sure I sure hope you have insurance for those constables in place now. Boy, oh boy, if you don't,
We do.
We do,
Okay.
we do,
We
we
do.
do. Let's not even go there. We do.
Okay, so
We just
so assuming, all right, so now that issue's resolved. And in terms of taking the time to educate the public, you'll probably have 2 or 3 months to go out there and do whatever you got to do to make sure the public's aware of 911 and stuff like that. I'm concerned if you guys don't get me the MOU. I'm concerned if you guys don't get me the MOU now, we're gonna miss an opportunity for your court.
But the 911 doesn't change
Yeah.
when
Correct.
the agreement is
No.
signed.
No, it doesn't. But
I just, thank you so much, Kyle. I just want to say, this clarifies, I think, the main concern we had, which is we've all been expressing, we want our town to participate in this. We know the strain that has been placed on our local courts and our part-time justices. And we believe, like everyone is saying, that everyone needs representation and arraignment. I think it wasn't clear to us that we had to sign this MOU in order to participate. You've answered our question. I think a lot of things have been illuminated for the board members that have always been true that we, maybe hadn't been thinking about. So that's our work to do, to consider outside of this. But I would support signing this tonight so that we can make this happen, because the 3-month lag, frankly, is not
I feel the same way.
great.
No, it's not. And I cannot express to you the heartbreak when you know you're being called because there's a domestic dispute and you can't find an attorney. It is just heart-wrenching. And you listen.
Have we never been able to get a public defender? You
No,
said that you
it's-
have one name that's useless, so we never had a public defender.
We have
available
always,
to us.
we have, up until, for town of Rochester, I would say it started towards the end of 2023, where we couldn't get anybody. For the first
Okay, so
couple
this
of
is
years,
newer,
this is a newer thing.
not having a public defender.
So
You guys
the
have been doing them overnight.
the explanation
I
that,
really know. I can show you, I can show you my list.
Many of them, you don't have people that answer.
so yesterday's meeting,
Oh, no, we always have it, and
Yeah.
I would be called like every week. That was, as long as you can get your public defender and you can do it, it's great.
at yesterday's meeting, the public defender was there. The county is split up into 4 quadrants. There is a public defender assigned in theory, to each one for a month-long period of time. As Kyle said earlier, in Esopus, that person is only able to do 2 of the 4 weeks. So Rochester currently in 2 of those quadrants, and including the one Rochester is in, there is no assigned public defender. They say they have advertised. They cannot get people to be willing to work overnight. And so there are vacant positions. And so that's why some of this is that they say they don't have the people to supply.
Right, and that we do, there was a name for.
No, I was just wondering for our
Yeah.
specific court, because I know that they have been doing them, if there's just when the change happened that we kind of like lost having that access, so.
It's
just
been
Bob
happening
answered my
for,
question.
it's been happening for the
For
whole
several
county,
years.
it's now hit town of Rochester.
Yeah, it's been a gradual
We're gonna
process.
vote later.
Yeah.
Can, if everybody is good, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll move on here. I apologize. Just-
Mike,
Oh,
I have
yes, Mary Lou.
one more question that I did talk to Dave Delahunt about, which, you know, as the attorney, I have to bring this up. There's no time period on this
Yeah,
contract.
I forgot about that.
It's like,
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
there's,
Kyle, do you know the answer to that? So this agreement doesn't have any
Dave-
timeframe on it.
Dave didn't think there'd be a problem if we passed it, subject to it being like, I don't know, a 3-year, a 5-year commitment, renewable, you know, upon consent of the parties.
Okay.
But I don't know
If
how.
he
Judge
expressed
Bar-
that and we add it, then we should be
Well,
okay.
I want to
But-
see from the county perspective what Justice Barnett thinks about that, because,
What's
you
that?
know,
Timeframe.
Adding a
a time
timeframe
frame.
on this.
it's non-ending. So what about?
Oh, it's
doing
never,
it-
yeah, it's never, is there a time frame on the cap?
No,
There's
it's
no,
not
there's
on
no
the
time frame
MOU.
in the MOU. There's no
No, there's
time
no
period.
time frame. There's no time period. No, there's no restrictions. If my understanding is if 5 years from now, a town wants to drop out, they could drop out. That's my understanding.
Well, right. So, but I think we need a provision for that because it's not in there.
I wouldn't.
And Dave
here's my-
agreed.
Let me disagree with that. Here's the thing that I find with OCA. Like I said, I've been dealing with them for 3 years. God help me. It has been, as long as it took me to make that speech, it doesn't do justice to what I've been going through for the past. Please, I don't want to have to explain anything. If that MOU is different than the 19 other MOUs that I've submitted with this plan, I know I'm going to get kicked. It's going to get kicked back. I know I'm going to have to answer to it. And I'm afraid it's going to delay the process. So I'm
Okay.
begging.
Dave
Please
thought that
don't-
OCA would be okay with that.
Okay. then-
I brought it up to Dave and he said, wow, nobody ever thought of that. That's a good point. I don't see any problem with that.
Okay, whatever you guys want to do. I'm just.
Doesn't it go higher?
It does, it does. It goes to the state.
Right.
Dave submits it. They meet, there's a commission that meets on,
Right. Dave is our guide, he's not our final word. I'm going.
Right.
He's not the final. Yeah.
well,
What I would suggest
let's,
is that we,
Mary Lou, let's move on to the board. It's on our agenda later for the board to talk about. What you're bringing up is something the board needs to talk about. I
okay,
just want to keep the meeting moving here. We're getting way behind schedule.
okay.
So we've heard from, the point of this was to hear from the two judges. We can debate that later about whether to add a time.
Okay.
Because they're not gonna decide and we're not gonna decide if it's okay, so. Okay. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks again. I appreciate it. Thank you for.
And Kyle, thank you for the reason, as I told the board last week, we got this so late is we did not think we were included until Justice Delahunt said, oh no, Rochester needs to be included, so.
Yeah.
That's why we're in this short notice.
Yep.
Yeah. So our next agenda item,
Thanks, everybody.
Chair of the Planning Board has asked to speak to the town about software. And Lou Klepner and Mark Grasso are here. I need to recuse myself from this discussion. Kate, I'd ask you to include on the record, the reason for my recusal is I have worked as a paid consultant to the software, to the people designing the software with my planning experience. I am not an investor. And I will say, Chair Grasso brought this to me not knowing that I was involved in this. He came to my office and said, I got this great new software, and I looked down and said, yeah, I know about it. So I'm gonna ask Aaron to chair the meeting. I'm gonna leave the room. If you would come knock on the door, I'll be in the other room. Just let me know when you're done, but I don't want any conflict of interest on this, so. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, Mark Rosso, Town of Rochester Planning Board Chair, as you guys know. Nice to meet you as well. I have a great opportunity that we need to discuss, which is Unica Lab, and Lou Kleppner is the CEO. Him and his co-partner is Abe Patel, who is Ulster County legislator. They came to me about a year ago and mentioned and offered this great new program that they are working on. That is a huge opportunity for the town of Rochester. What it does is it creates an environment. Currently, we have a system that is man-made. We use a Google Docs system. We have Microsoft Excel documents that we use to take in applications and keep a log and track and where we are in our process. For those of you who have been on either zoning boards or planning boards or any boards in the past, you realize that there's a lot of documentation that flows in and out. There's a large process that goes along with the application on the front end, where the applicant actually provides a handwritten document and sends it to the town. That process starts with the building department and the code enforcement officer. From there, it goes to the planning department, planning and zoning office, where there's another application that's taken and an array of additional documents that are needed in order to get on the agenda. What these fine folks do is they created an environment for us, similar to you guys who are in bookkeeping on QuickBooks or whatever program that you use in your everyday job. They have manufactured this basically forward-thinking opportunity of taking everything that is involved in planning and putting it in one web-based environment for us to utilize. On the planning board side, for the town employee Jasmine, as well as planning board members, this is a great opportunity because it's a one-stop shop for us to live in this environment. We can actually pull this up on it's a web-based software where we can pull it up on the Zoom or on the computer as we're going through those applications and see milestones that are met as documents is all being asked for. So without that further ado, I'm going to let Lou take it and show you what the program can do. But I want you to also think about the future, because it's not only planning. Lou and his team can do this for zoning. They can do it for the building department. They can do this for our entire town, which I think is a huge opportunity. On the startup side, Lou and his team has been working on this for a couple of years now, and the town of Rochester potentially could be the first one, and I am really excited about that. So, Lou, hit it.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Yeah, my co-founder Abe and I both have participated in various boards and committees, and he's a county legislator, as Mark mentioned. And we also have a background in technology, and we were friends before we founded this company together. We both were kind of lamenting about the challenges that deliberative bodies face in the processes in general. And we set out to build software for boards and committees and commissions, and in talking to elected officials and in different communities, we found that planning boards had the most, and land use review boards had the some of the most onerous workloads and complexity associated with these reviews. And so we decided to focus in on that as an initial service offering. And we met with a number of different planning board leaders and clerks and engineering firms on the applicant side of things and attorneys, and built a view of or understanding of the workflows associated and the types of documents and the variation between different communities. And we built a web-based platform for doing that. It's sort of centered around the municipality, and sort of centered around the entities within a municipality. So the planning board instance has its own homepage and meetings view, and online application process. The applications themselves are highly customizable. We designed it so there's reusable sections. Oftentimes you'd be applying for a site plan and a special use permit at the same time, and there'll be a lot of common fields.
You know, for instance, think about it on the other side is where on the planning board side, now we can have everything that is all in one spot. And we can focus on record storage is all in that data, you know, everything that we ever have, foils and things that come down from the public, they have access to it. The applicant can actually go on to the website, create the application. There's just a lot of digital aids forward thinking in this process.
Yeah, when the applicant is applying, it's possible for the applicant to pick the phone and call the admin and say, I got stuck in this question, where we built help text in there, references to the municipal code, alongside questions in the application. But the admin can take a look at the draft application and help the applicant through it. It's also when they're in draft mode, if you will, before a project has been submitted, the software doesn't record changes. Once you submit the project into review, any change that's made, a file that's updated, or an answer that has changed has a change log associated with it. We have like a history view with reverse chronological listing of all the changes that have occurred on a given project. We send notifications via email and within the app itself. You know, inline PDF viewing. We have some features in the works for marking up PDFs, annotating and commenting on the plans themselves, and workflow for handling requests from the board to applicants. So during a board review, something's identified as missing or needs to be changed, that request can be documented within the software. That will be sent automatically to the applicant. When the applicant responds to that, they can check which requests they've completed in a given design update. Sometimes there'll be a dozen changes that are required, and they'll upload a design file that only addresses half of them. And hunting through is something that we've been told is challenging and frustrating. Yeah. So, yeah, we did, you know, we began speaking about this over a year ago, and we hope we've built software that really meets the needs of not only Rochester, but other communities as well. And the offer that we are bringing to the table this evening is outlines we've already set up an instance for the town of Rochester and set up the application. So already sort of midway down this list in our enthusiasm for this. But in a matter of a few weeks, I think we said 4 weeks here, we'll review that, make sure the whole board is up to speed on the processes, how to use the software. We tried to design this to be as easy to use, and if you can use Gmail, you can use the software in essence. Since we're just getting started, we're waiving the setup fee. Probably the biggest thing unique offer we're bringing to the table here is that we've really customized the software to the requirements we collected early on. And we're very committed to having this software work well for the town of Rochester, and are excited to you know, meet and exceed expectations here. You know, initially focused solely on the planning board, but a lot of similar processes to the ZBA.
Great. Thank you. I know I have a lot of questions. I'm sure the rest of the board might have some questions, so maybe we should just go around the table and get those.
This is a web-based platform, correct? So what type of security or cybersecurity do you guys have in place, since we're a municipality and it's gonna hold some personal sensitive information for people's properties on it?
Yeah.
You guys have for the program.
Most of the data we collect here is actually public record in terms of planning board applications. Those are typically a lot of municipalities post those in full online. The system runs on AWS, Amazon's Web Services. All the data is encrypted in transit and at rest. As an unauthenticated user, you can view projects, but you can't modify things. You can view projects in review. As an user authentication occurs either via an auth system using a Google account or using your one's email address. Applicants create an account, administrators and board members and staff members and consultants also will have their own individual accounts.
We can give them permissions like, edit access like our attorney and rather than a read only for maybe a planning board members.
Yeah, I guess I'm more concerned about potential hacking for someone to go in and change someone's projects. Potentially, a bad, like a world where that could happen. Just because like I know us, like we're a municipality, like as a municipality, as a government body, like we have to make sure that everything we have is secure. So that's what I just want to make sure that there's, since this is the new, where you're.
Right now we use the Google sheet,
Docs.
we use like a
Yeah.
G Drive, Google
Okay.
Drive, where everybody who we grant permissions has access to that. So this would be similar,
Probably equally
leveled as, so the security problems.
Once a project is put into review, any change to that project is logged. So if a user who was authorizing a change that they really shouldn't have made, it'll be,
You guys can see.
it's just in a
Like if you
log.
guys were to change the name, it shouldn't have been. Check the box when the fee was paid wasn't, we can see who did that at what time. So that's nice, because right now we can't.
And all those things flow out as notifications to people who are following projects. So we have, as a convenience, we've put a setting in there so you can batch notifications. So rather than getting them, so you get them in real time as changes occur, or you can get them hourly or daily or even weekly. And it will give you a consolidated report of all the changes that occur on the projects that you follow. There's an option to automatically follow new projects which go into review.
So the reason that I think that this is really important is because we currently live in something that we created as an environment to operate with all the planning board members, which is not a bad thing. It's that this would just create everything into one spot. So we have sort of a one-stop shop rather than 4 or 5 different fields that we are using right now.
Do you guys have any, I know you said that you guys started with planning boards for like your base model, but how long do you think it would be till you would expand to where this would also work with a code enforcement office and then a ZBA also? Like, do you have a timeline idea of when you guys would be adding those services or adding something to plan on?
Yeah, ZBA would be up next. That would likely be this summer. Our goal is to facilitate communication between different, not only boards and committees, but departments as well. So the building department is a natural tie-in. Our goal initially is to do planning boards really well. So that's what.
Yeah, master the one, yeah, understood.
I'm thinking you're the same way. The workflow is important because it starts here, then goes here, then goes here.
Yeah, well,
It would
because
be
it's
great
kind
if-
of in the middle.
It would-
It should have started with the zoning.
Or with planning.
Code
Or with code
enforcement
enforcement,
office for me, because some people come, they don't know that they
They have no
have to
idea.
go to you guys. so they go
Exactly.
there First, so.
Yeah.
It means a little backwards, but that's okay. It's a bigger task to put on,
This
so I
is the
get
one
it.
that has a lot of documents.
Yeah, it has a lot of huge documents in different layers, so I get it. But yeah, that's what I had for now.
Thank you.
Whoever else has questions.
No question? I don't think this. Everyone else has no question.
I have a few questions. So speaking of collaboration, we have a agenda item to sign a 5-year contract with DocuWare for records management software, because we both have so many documents, but also we've been digitizing. I have not been doing any
The
of
town
it,
has.
but I'm saying and so I'm curious about compatibility and integration, because this is fantastic, but this is the topic of automated workflows and efficiencies in the town and creating a more digitized system that can help our staff and our boards operate more efficiently is kind of a number one priority of some of the members of the board for this year after we get through some of our other items that we left unfinished from last year. So while I think, I mean, I'm like, it's exciting to see this, but it's also, there's like a holistic consideration we have with other investments that we're making and other ideas we have. So can you talk at all about, I know you talked about PDFs, like what would, is there compatibility with DocuWare, are we using documents that are gonna be on file is this creating those documents? What's the work? I'm curious about the workflow.
I think our primary purpose is in facilitating the planning board review process.
Yeah,
And then at the end, there are archival records that come out of it.
okay.
And I think that's where DocuWare would fit in. We have a feature in development now where we output both on an automated basis our projects in review, as well as projects which have been completed. If a project's been completed and it's archived, no changes are being made. It doesn't need to be written out on a daily basis, but as a sort of redundancy system, writing out to a third-party system, whether it be DocuWare or something else, so that the data doesn't solely reside within our system, which is, another data security consideration here.
Mm-hmm.
We have currently in place an expert method for archival purposes where all the programmatic data, all the fields that have been with answers which have been filled into the software, SBLs, orders information, all those details are output as a PDF as one consolidated list of information, a single file. We have another section where every uploaded file can be downloaded as a single zip file containing every uploaded file related to the project.
Mm-hmm.
With those two files at hand, you have a complete project. So from an archival perspective, that would certainly be a starting point.
Mm-hmm.
And we can also take a look at how you plan on using DocuWare and what types of workflows would fit in there more elegantly than just, a PDF and a zip file.
Right. Yeah, because that's what I am thinking about, that and how the interface between the planning board approves something, then it's code enforcement's job to uphold everything that's in the site plan. And we do have, that is like an issue with our documents, that it's a big thing that we're really wanting to look at. So my second question is, I didn't get a chance to really look through this. I have been in touch with Abe, who offered to do a demo, but I don't yet know how this works. You talked about doing like the planning board members and consultants having like accounts. But it also sounded like applicants are also interfacing with this, and would that be required? Because most of our applications are digital, done by this, tech savvy or basic tech. But then we do have a few things that come in where it's someone wanting a lot line adjustment, and I don't know how comfortable they would be. I just want to hear about, would this change any of that, or would we be able to
on the
accommodate?
process side, planning board, we would say, there's two ways to complete an application. You can walk in and give us a hand one, and we're going to enter it into the system so that our planning board members have access to viewing it. Or here's the link, go home, fill it out. When you're done, we'll call you and let you know how much your fee is. So on the process side, it's sort of similar to what we have right now. People walking in the door going, hey, here's my handwritten application. Here's my 6 maps that I need, and here's my check for $150, option one. Or you have people who go to the code enforcement officer and go, I've never done this before, I don't know what to do, help me. And they go, next window, and then the process gets started over. So depending on how you want, the ending goal for the planning board, in my opinion, would be, we would want every application entered into the software so that we as a planning board have access to viewing it, and we can set the milestones on where we want to go next. If it's a simple lot line, here's the 6 things that you need. We have it on our agenda. It's done. It's all set. If it's a site plan approval, like a granary or a large project, then we have 43 steps we need to get to, whatever those things are. So this For the planning board members or consultants or attorneys, the environment is what's important because it's outlining everything that is needed and what's still outstanding, what needs to be fixed. Here's the next submittal of those things. If you saw our Google Drive, everything is dated and there's just 60 documents in there and we have to go through every single one. This would sort of check that box that, okay, we've received the, I'll use a deed as a requirement since that's a requirement on every application. We've received the deed. It checks the box. It alerts our attorney that it's ready for review. The next item would be our town planner has taken a look at the application and has these 6 comments. It checks the box. It alerts all the planning board members and the applicant that the review is completed and ready for review. So it sort of better organizes an array of documents that come in at all times.
Well, a lot of planning boards are dependent on kind of a file system for the
Yeah.
organization and file naming conventions. And this kind of eliminates the need to try to make that work.
Yeah, we do everything with a date. So
Yeah,
we know
well,
when it comes in.
that is something we've talked about in terms of upgrading to something, this software like this for departments.
I'm sorry, go on.
I have one more question, but if you have something on that topic.
I was just gonna say that we've made the data very granular, like where what we call an element of an application is some sort of text input. So it's not just managing the files, which, you know, there could be anywhere from a handful to several dozen.
Sure.
But it's you know, organizing all the rest of the associated data. So all the fields which you have on a form are all being sorted into sections. And maybe I didn't want to make this too lengthy now, so we can follow up with like a live demo. But when you get into the software, I think we've tried to lay it out in a way that's comprehensive but easy to approach.
And then I just want to go off of that. Think about it as the big picture for planning boards, code enforcement, assessor. On the application side, it starts with code enforcement then do a determination. Once they get everything that they need, then it will go to the planning board office. Planning board gets the application, the fees paid, it goes through the whole planning board process. We have an approval. Once the approval is completed, now it goes back to the code enforcement officer. It goes to the assessor. It goes to the town clerk. So there's a lot of people who are involved pre and post planning. I see it on a big picture of, wow, this could be a really great thing if all departments were involved. Obviously, we want to get this right first, but on a big picture, this could be really cool.
Yeah, that's one thing we've started to look into. Some of the board members have, you know, creating automated workflows so that, and there's other things that do this. So one feature of some of the other sort of existing programs is just like Google Drive, which, you know, we know the limitations of Google Drive or something like SharePoint, or you could have a public view, so that one of the things that I'm very delayed on is our new website should be published soon. And we really want that to be a hub of communication. And we've been looking at things that could have the documents that need to be accessible by the public linked directly into our the sort of agenda. I can't cite for them each meeting. There'll be like you know, it'll be like
A URL for this
here's
meeting,
the
too.
agenda, here are the documents for that meeting. Is that something that this could do, that it would link and the public could view?
Yes, yeah. With the portal is intended to be accessed by the public.
Okay.
And if you are a board member, staff member, or an applicant, you can log in, and then you have additional capabilities where you can change a project or change the status of something and actually manipulate the data with it. The general public, when they access it, has a read-only view. They can sign up for notifications, which requires creating an account because we need to know where to send those notifications.
So any member of the public could do that?
Yes. Yep. And there's no limitation on the number of users or number of notifications being sent, or number of projects for that matter.
Okay.
So your license isn't seat-based,
It is not, no.
and the AWS costs are rolled into that price?
Yep. Yeah, there's just a software as a service offering, so we host everything. There's no need for provisioning any kind of equipment. There's no need to worry about software updates.
No caps on data or anything?
No, not at this point in time. We,
And you were transparent about this. No one has used this yet.
this has not been used
Okay.
in production yet.
I am stoked about it because it is definitely an environment that I enjoy. Just getting to know and thinking about as I'm making an agenda or as I'm reviewing an application. I just go here and everything is here. I don't have to go to multiple different things. And I could just think about like other committees or other boards in our town who this would really benefit also.
Well, are there any other, Kate, did you have any questions since you
No,
deal with
so
so
far.
many records? Okay, are there any other follow-up thoughts or questions? Okay,
That'd be good to see a demo at some point.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I think there's
that's
more,
Still
I think,
Yeah,
I want to take a deeper dive into that.
yeah, the slide deck is really just intended to be sort of a taste of the stuff that's in there. We'd love to
So-
set up a demo with them.
I think what we could do is maybe like, if unless we wanted to do it in a public meeting, 'cause Supervisor Baden is recused from this anytime we talk about it or have it on an agenda. If we each wanted to like in pairs could do demos or individually do demos. And if we didn't want to have to do it in a public meeting, we could do that. So that,
Should we do maybe pairs and see if half the planning board and the other half of the planning board wanna see the demo too, since they'd be the ones using it to chime in?
I don't have a
I don't
problem
have
with that.
I think that you guys just want to, cost and budget and make sure that this is something that you guys can do before we get the other members involved, because they're gonna go, oh my goodness, this is the best thing in the world.
Don't break any hearts.
Right, I don't want to break any hearts. I know that there's already one member who has seen this somehow because that's how it got to me before that and is like, this is the best thing in the world. So it really makes our process efficient, which is our
Right,
goal
yeah.
in such a large.
It's been an exciting time for us because this is the reaction that we've generally been getting.
Yeah.
And not generally, like across the board, because everyone's sort of winging it in
Right.
terms of trying to keep the stuff organized, and it's I think not pleasant and
Well, it's basically volunteers for the planning board.
I think that this would really create a lot of organization, which would reduce churn. So
there's something to be said for institutional memory as well. There's this, now you've got a system set up that people who come into it will already have like an established pattern to follow.
So would you like us to send you invites to like as groups, or do you
I
want to reach
think
out
we
to us?
can manage it. I already have one, and I can forward that information. I would just like to say, I think conceptually, I think there's a lot that we agree with and are on the same page. I just want to, in terms of the board discussion and our budget and how we're approaching these systems for the town, I do think that's a bigger question that we will be wanting to discuss further. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mark.
Absolutely. Thank you guys. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, I can.
Oh, there is a price.
Yes, there is a price for the first year.
It's on the last.
And, so is there any discussion that the board would like to have before we, invite Supervisor Baden back? Nope. Okay. So I think just, if we want to put this on another, agenda, let me know, and then I can request that it's on a future agenda. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Look forward to demoing.
Yeah. Done.
Use it on, and then not set it up for a year. And then win another year.
Where did we go? Okay, moving on with the agenda. There we go.
8:10.
Meeting.
Nice.
So the financial report has been filed with the board. The January 2024 financials, general fund revenue was $555,733.29. The highway fund revenue, $804,213.38. The expenditures, the general fund, $339,851.65. The highway fund, $293,499.51. The street lighting, the capital, and the ambulance fund were all at zero. And the escrow fund, $3,539.58. The February revenue, general fund, $183,764.83. The highway fund, $922,653.41. The expenditures, I'm not going to read them, they're as written. The total expenditures for February, general fund, $143,119.20. Highway fund, $78,221.76, and the others are as in the agenda. Correspondence, we received various correspondence from residents. Most of you have been included or I forwarded them. I want to call attention to the 2024 agricultural district period for inclusion. This is been posted on our website, and information is at the town clerk's office and at the assessor's office. Anyone who has agricultural properties that is not currently listed in the county agricultural district and is interested in being considered should reach out to the Ulster County Planning Department, specifically Bert Samuelson. And it is a 30-day period from March 1st through March 30th that people can apply. We have had people add properties the last several years, at least one property. Last year we had 3. This year I know we have 1 person who has expressed interest so far. I wanted to call attention to the nature bus, which was unveiled by the county executive at her State of the County speech. This is a joint effort between Ulster County Area Transit and the county, and it will run on Saturdays and maybe Sundays. The destinations will change from week to week. There will be designated stops along their regular routes. It won't be a flags the bus situation. The bus is free, but if there are charges at some of the parks, passengers will be required to pay unless someone comes up with another payment method. That would be like Minnewaska, Mohawk. Bicycles will be allowed on the buses so the passengers can access the rail trails. The buses will have the outer wrapping, and it will be unclear whether they'll be seeking sponsorship or having timely signs reach out. So I just wanted to forward that information to you. Stay tuned, but county is working toward that. At the end of February, I was invited to a meeting in Gardner with Congressman Ryan. A number of other supervisors were there, other county officials, other people from Mohawk and other agencies. And he had a discussion about the 2024 Hudson Valley priorities from his standpoint. However, since that time, the new redistricting maps have come out, and as of 2025, Congressman Ryan will not be our congressman anymore. We are being moved to the other, we are being moved from 19 to 18, or I may have said it backwards. But anyway, we are being moved to the other district.
We were 19.
We were 19. So we will be 18 with this coming general election in November. And Congressman Molinaro is the current seated congressman for that district, and he is planning to be on the ballot as of now, and just making people aware of that. And the UCRA has unveiled an e-newsletter. If anybody wants to sign up, go to their website. And there was a recycling memo and a memo about tons of the roll-offs and how many tons are being used. Just wanted to share that with you guys, specifically for our municipality. Grant updates, good news, and unfortunately Justice Laflamme is no longer here, but we were awarded the 2024 JCAP grant that we applied for last fall. That was, we had put in an application for a redesign and work to be done on the meeting room that is in the court, specifically soundproofing, because anytime there's an attorney-client conversation in there, the entire courtroom can hear the conversation. They will also, there was estimates put in to apply for that grant. I'll be back to you probably next month with discussions on where we go from there, but we have been awarded the grant. We will need to make some of the funding to complete it, because the portion that was being provided, I think it's 30,000, if I remember correctly, will not complete the project. Algerville Firehouse continues. We are working toward getting it closed out with the state, and hopefully soon. The paperwork, the work is done. It's the closeout. Boyce Mill Road Bridge, I gave you an update last week, excuse me. The annual financial report, I am working with RBT, our accounting firm, to finalize that. We have applied, as we always do, and as everybody always does, for an extension of 30 days. It's normally due the end of March, but with tax time being April 15th, you can never get it done. So everybody applies for the extension until the end of April. It's now called the annual update document. No, it was formerly called, it's now called the annual financial report. And I'm working through the system with them of getting them the access they need. A reminder, the record storage building, and it's my error, I put RFP, it is actually RFSB, sealed bid, not proposal, are due next week, and we will then be distributing them to the board members for your own scoring, and we will be scoring them in public at the audit meeting to decide where we go next. Upcoming meetings and events is actually carried over into the next. Remember, at our next workshop meeting, we will be working on the zoning map. Check your emails. I am away for a brief period to go celebrate my mom's 80th birthday. So I will be back Wednesday, the day before this meeting, but check your email and I will be sending you some info of the list of the properties of the people who spoke to us. The 15th, is it the 15th or the 14th, Kate? The 14th, so my error, I'm sorry. The 14th, the RFSB is due, and Kate will be making that available to us. And remember, the audit meeting is moved to the 27th, the Wednesday, instead of the Thursday, because the day before Good Friday, and we will tabulate the scores at that meeting. Okay, Mary Lou, anything to report?
You're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry, it no longer shows my picture on my own screens for that little side. Yeah, I've been pretty boring this month, so. Although I guess I can report, although Michael might say it later, that Councilman Coleman and I do have a meeting coming up with Spectrum next week, I think.
Oh.
Sorry.
Stealing my thunder.
Sorry, you have more to say, I'm sure.
No, you save me time. It's good. We get it.
Okay, Kate, town clerk tax collector report.
For the month of February, town clerk was $47,434.20. For tax collection, it's $789,363.30.
Okay. The highway superintendent, nothing to report, for him. So we'll move into liaison reports.
You're looking at me.
Well, we'll start with Emily with court.
Oh,
because
Emily,
You guys
yeah.
have a report?
Oh, we sure
Well,
do.
Yes.
We did, Justice LeBlanc's cases today. It was really great, wasn't it?
They were
Everything
in,
was so organized.
very
and
organized,
clean, and there were no issues
very
at all.
reconciled.
No, it worked. That means that
Hours
you
last
guys,
year.
but do you know what? I think what
It was
we
our
figured
couple
out was because you guys were so thorough last year and like, I think must have made serious recommendations that according to Aaron, it's like. So thank you.
I'm
for
jealous. I'm
your
glad you guys
sacrifice.
had a great time.
We will be auditing Justice Alba's records the week of sometime between the 14th and the 22nd. So I plan to get the report submitted to the board by no later than the 25th so that we can put it on the agenda on the 27th, Mike, to vote
Okay.
on. Okay.
Perfect. Perfect. Anything else?
No, that's it.
We'll move to Aaron.
Okay, I don't have anything prepared, so I'll just try to give like high level updates. The Agricultural Advisory Committee had their second meeting. Very excited. They currently are working on their kind of visioning and priorities for what they would like to do. They are planning on sending the town board comments on the zoning code at the end they're going to finalize their comments at their March meeting at the end of the month, and send those to us so that we will have them ahead of our review and next round of what we're submitting. And then they're also looking at the just like signage and awareness, community awareness education around tractors on the roadways. So very, very excited to witness and a very incredible energized group, which I'm sure will sort of drop off as the growing season approaches. The ECC has a request to use some of their budget to purchase seeds, and I need to forward that to you, Mike.
I was copied on.
Okay, great. They're looking at doing a joint Earth Day event with the Historic Preservation Commission, which also it would be an expense for the speaker they'd like. So that's on their agenda, and I didn't see a third Thursday for March. I haven't gotten that notice yet, but they are starting the plastic film collection the first Saturday in April. And they have a few other priority items that they will want to bring to the board in terms of like utilizing some of the funds that we have budgeted for them, including a inventory. They'd like to hire a consultant to do a species inventory at one of the town-owned properties. What else?
And I included in your packet today the written request for that.
Yeah.
So.
I don't really have any updates for the transfer station other than as soon as you get back, Mike, we'll schedule interviews for that position. I know Mike was working and I contributed a very tiny bit to our annual recycling document. And then also the memo that we got from the UCRA, I think is kind of a good goal to try to reduce the number of pools we have. So I was gonna talk to staff about that, see what we can do. And then now that I'm back from vacation, would like to schedule a meeting so that we can launch the website. So I need to get with you and you about that and then figure out which staff we want to have in a training session. So when you get, maybe I can just talk to you, Kate, and then I can talk to you when you get back. So that we can get that scheduled for the end, towards the second half of the month. I can't remember. I'll yield.
You've covered everything.
I will cover, yeah.
I know what you mean.
What do you say?
So I'll start with the elder care program, which was a little slow, for the month of February. Constable Miller has been working 4 days a week at the, for the coverage. So he hasn't been able to get out to do a lot of elder care calls, but we did have 2 calls, about flooding, which he contacted and was able to get the fire department to come pump out those 2 different residences' basements. And one of them was due to a very large roof leak, so, Constable Miller also coordinated with Rupco, and they are now in the process of getting them a grant to get that roof repaired,
Nice.
for that senior. So thank you, great job on that, collaborative efforts between multiple organizations around, so I'm trying to, everyone texted me their stuff this time, so. The housing committee met with Kai from the county, county planning department, came and spoke to us about the Housing Smart community and then what the ideal next steps are gonna be for the consult on the housing site inventory. Which they have a couple questions follow up after. They had like a whole list of questions for Kai when we were in the meeting, and they went really well. But they have a few more questions about just the process and like they wanna know what the liaisons between us and the contract award winner with the county, who the 2 communication, they want a list of pretty much what the job would be for the liaison so that they can pick the right person, since we're down to only 5 members right now. So people, if you're interested in being on the housing committee, send us some emails. So we're gonna have 2 slots open. And then for Ashley, for the rec center, on Friday, March 15th, so that's next Friday, is the recreation department's hosting the annual St. Patrick's Day luncheon at the Harold Lipton Community Center. Call the community center at 845-636-2115 to sign up. There will be a Narcan training class in community center on Wednesday, March 20th at 10 a.m. The class is being taught by professionals from Ellenville Regional Hospital. Call the rec department to sign up for that as well. And then the rec
Wait,
department.
sorry, what date is that?
The Narcan training is March 20th at 10 a.m. It's a Wednesday. And then they'll be hosting the Easter Bunny photos again this year during spring break on March 25th and the 27th, free of charge. We provide the backdrop and you guys take the photos, call to make an appointment. And last but not, oh no, there's 2 more. On Saturday, March 30th, the rec department will be hosting a youth Easter egg hunt at the town park, and the Easter Bunny will stop by to say hello. Different age groups available. Bring your own basket or carry the eggs. Call 845-626-2115 to sign up. And they will also be running a community trip to the Resorts World Casino in Monticello at the end of April. Call the recreation department again for more info on that one.
Did she give you the time for the Easter egg? You know?
Usually starts at 12.
No, but it's normally 12. Yeah,
Okay.
that's, I think, is typically when it
Okay.
starts. I know it's
Thank
on
you.
the flyer they put on the on their Facebook page. And just the only other thing, that
I know they were trying to work it because Marbletown and Rosendale were doing.
Yeah, Marbletown's the weekend before, so they didn't overlap. And the only other thing I want to say for the rec department is I do want us to, I know we put out the RFBS for request for seals SB, sorry, I have dyslexia, it's not my fault. For the record storage building. But I would like us to still, if that is the avenue we're going for, the town clerk's office and for the code enforcement office, since the project would be under our procurement policy, I would like us to see and seriously get them a new shed as soon as we humanly can.
Yep.
So I'm sure after the beginning weather of this week, there's probably a lot of wet stuff in that storage shed that has the bad roof. So I think that's all I have. The only other thing I'll say, just in regards with the Narcan training, if anyone ever needs Narcan, I have it available at my food pantry. If anyone ever wants to come get a kit, you are welcome to come by. They are also provided by Allenville Regional.
Okay, Michael.
Well, I was gonna update about Spectrum, but, so we do have a meeting, so that's good to hear, and that's to, go through some of the red lines that we had discussed last time, so hopefully we can come to an agreement on that. In terms of the ambulance, so I spoke to Dave Boland. I know he had received some numbers from KFAS, but there was some edits they were making for that. Spoke to Dave Linscott yesterday, and just kind of expressed that the board had some questions based off of the numbers we had seen, and that we would be interested if they were amenable to have a discussion with them, kind of talk through some things. And that, you know, primarily the concern is we want to just understand financials and make sure that there's a clear plan moving forward to get financial reporting. He did say that they had a meeting this coming Monday that they were going to be discussing with the bookkeeper that they had mentioned they were considering working with, putting in touch with their treasurer. So more to follow on that. I didn't get a chance to talk to Joe or anyone over at Marlton First Aid Unit. No updates on the fire district ZBA. So they had 2 applications. They had 1 public hearing at their last meeting. One was a continuation, and that was the one that they had the public hearing on. And then there was another new application, some discussion about a request for an area variance. In terms of the park, so let's see, reading my chicken scratch here. So positive note, I did notice on the rail trail that there was a large tree that had come down and was completely blocking the trail. Called up Jeff, and they were able to get out there, and it was cleared the next time I went there. So it was not a small tree, so I'm glad they were able to get that resolved. I've also noticed, and I know other people have noticed, that there are people leaving bags of dog droppings at the head of the trail. So I had sent you, Mike, I think we should consider not a full-on garbage can, but something that is exclusively for that. So it's small, so you're not like dealing with picking up 50-pound bags of stuff. But I think if we could consider getting something there, Jeff did say that they could take care of being that. So I think that would be helpful, so people don't want to put it in their car and just leave it there.
That's a good idea, and with little bags.
Yeah, I think the one that I was looking at has the
bags.
Yeah, like they make that station outside of Ben's office.
Yeah.
With that whole setup.
Yeah.
It's very nice. It's green. It's
It'll blend in.
tiny. I think you can open it from the bottom.
Do you think we should have one at the Burn Road entrance too, or just one?
They're garbage.
Yeah.
Let me check the pricing, because it's not that expensive.
We should, because people leave it on the trail, which is.
Okay.
Yeah.
think
Oh,
it's
yeah.
nice.
Burn Road. You're not.
Okay, I'm just saying, sometimes if I'm walking, I'll leave it and come back and get, like, if we're
Well,
on
this
our
is
way.
not that. This is
Okay.
not that.
Put
This
your
is
name on
like.
it.
So we can bring it back to you.
We got a lot of agenda yet.
Getting late in the day already. Two other things from parks. Like I think you were talking, or maybe Jeff was going to talk to a fence person. I know Charlotte also talked to Rec.
Yep, I was in the process of talking with a vendor to get a quote.
Okay, perfect. Because yeah, I think both
For just that one over there.
for this one. For the
Well, I
cluster, too.
was doing here and the park quotes.
Yeah.
If we're gonna get a vendor come, we'll get.
That's
a
what I was
quote.
gonna
Yeah.
say, if we're gonna have someone come out,
Do
we
it,
might,
get both.
well,
Yep.
do both.
Yeah, and I also asked Jeff if we could look at options to clean up some of the area back here. I don't know if they donated it, but
I will know.
I'll follow up with him to see if
Yep.
he said they should be marking it here.
Can we add the transfer station fence to the fence?
Where?
As soon as you pull in, a tree landed on the.
Oh, we're at Park the
chain
other
link
day,
fence,
right?
yeah,
Okay.
and it's been busted
2 years.
Oh, wow.
Might as well.
And then constabulary, you guys all,
Need to know, I've heard about it and I haven't seen it.
As soon as you pull it, it's right there.
Okay,
Gates.
you guys all saw the constabulary report, so highlights 13 direct calls, 10 neighbor, 2 resident traffic complaints, 1 environmental, 4 new building department violations, 1 new court case open, 9 proceedings still open, and 0 closed. And that is it.
okay. The assessor, obviously, we met. Oh, yeah,
HPC, they are working on their schedule of events for the year, and they are hoping to do their Allegrville Hamlet Talk series this coming May at the Allegrville Firehouse, as long as that will be available to them. They are in the beginning stages of joining with the ECC on an Earth Day event, but Aaron talked on that quickly. And then they have their Ash Tree Festival scheduled for June 1st. That's all I have.
if you can pass on to them. I spoke with OSI because Deb Medenbach and I talked about possibly doing that as an official like ribbon cutting for the trail, and OSI is considering it. They had hoped to do it earlier than that, but the fact that they haven't gotten it organized yet, we may coincide it with that, the National Trails Day. So I just got that confirmation this week. The assessor, I just want to say a big thank you to Joanne Fairber, our assessor's aide, and Kate and her staff for all the assistance with people. As you know, the month of January and February is exemption time. It went very smoothly, and it's because of the assistance of the clerk's office and the very hard work of Joanne and Jeremy that it goes as smoothly as it does. I also want to thank our food pantry next door. On President's Day, I got a call from a person who was at the Colonial Motel, and they'd been placed there and had no food, no money, couldn't get in touch with the county because it was the holiday. It's not our town, but I reached out to the food pantry people, and within a couple hours, they had food to these people. So it's very nice to know that that exists, and the woman was very appreciative. And so I just want to say thank you to them for that, their immediate response to that. That's all I have for liaison. So we will now move to public comment. I know we have a gentleman who's very patient, waiting to speak to us tonight.
Are you here tonight?
So I'm Dan Richfield, one Queens Highway, and I've been here since my wife since 2014. We came with the intent to develop our land, raw land, which we did ourselves with all our builders, and to do a whole investment properties. And, so we were able to get one done. We got a long process, but many years later, after building up, we built one last year, subdivided, we got our short-term rental permit for it. It's great, it's a big milestone for us. But we've been doing this through the whole last few years of all the tumultuous short-term rental policy changes, and we weren't sure if we were going to get the permit. Part of our life plan has been to do 2. And we own another parcel that is already subdivided and ready to go. Though I just noticed the zoning is proposed to be changed, so that's a question I have. But it would be new construction, as everything else we've done is. And in order to build the house, we need some guarantee that we'd be able to get a permit. Because if we can't get a permit, we'd be in trouble. We fully understand the housing stock prices and support everything around that. But for us, we've owned this property. It's not like we're buying vacant land that could be otherwise used to build any other type of housing. We've owned it for years, so if it's either we build or we don't build. So that's I sent a letter in a couple months ago, out of here to the, I guess, to all the board members here, last year. And my argument is that we are not, I don't feel that we're contributing to the housing crisis by building this house and getting a short-term rental permit for it, because we build this house and it becomes a short-term rental, or nothing is built at all, maintained ownership over the land. So I was looking for an exception in the law that would not limit our specific situation from the cap of short-term rental permits. Specifically, I think in 2023 there was a 40 permit limit, and while there's no guarantee that we wouldn't get a permit, but we do have to build the house first to find out, and that would be a tough lesson to learn. If we built the house and we weren't able to, we might have to just turn around and sell it if we couldn't get the permit to afford it.
Thank you for sharing. You said don't build for a short-term rental, is a long-term rental something you guys would be interested in doing?
It would probably be a net negative for us. Maybe equity, it would come close to breaking even, but this is part of like what we're trying to do for livelihood, so we need some positive cash flow out.
Okay, thank you very much.
Could you have
copies for
all of
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and you did, Emily may not have, we will get a letter to you, because I don't know if it was in was it December or January when you sent the initial letter?
It must have been, it wasn't January, it was last year.
Okay, yeah. So Emily is a new board member, so if you could get another copy to us, either by email or, oh, never mind. Is that the same letter?
Same letter, I didn't sign them.
That's fine. Okay, no problem. Thank you. Charlie?
Yeah, I talked to you and I just talked to Erin about the garbage on Queens Highway. Now, Jeff says he don't pick up garbage, it's the transfer station job. This one is the transfer station, Cobble Road in the town of Rochester. So it's in the highway right away. So I think it's the highway job. So that's all I got to say.
Okay. We will follow up.
So I text you about it.
Yep.
And I text Erin. Yes.
Understood.
Actually,
Go ahead.
someone else told me about a problem with garbage on Queens Highway.
And it's in orange bags, as if
Yeah.
someone
It's like a,
was doing an adopted
highway
road.
bag, but then there's other stuff with it, like broken
Yeah,
wood.
it's clearly someone.
Or
was
it
doing
fell
road
off the floor, it
cleanup.
fell off.
No, it looks like a road cleanup, they're placed
Oh.
evenly, and
Before Buddha Hole Road.
there's no county or state adopted highway programs on that. So I don't know who did this, if it's
Jeff himself.
Okay.
Well,
I've seen.
okay,
Residents go around and pick up garbage.
understood,
Yeah, I
understood.
think that's what it was, and I don't
Well, if
know.
they're orange bags normally are given out and
For
count
Earth
and
Day.
on Earth Day, but like then town, so like in the cities, if you do orange bags on a highway, even if it's not Earth Day or not adopted highway, the garbage trucks still pick them up. So it might just be a
It might-
miscommunication, someone trying to clean up,
And
and
thinking-
someone will come and take them because they're orange. Is
Well, we'll follow up on it and
Yeah.
get it addressed, but thank you and happy birthday.
Happy
Happy
birthday.
Okay, any town board members have anything to bring up? Okay,
Mike, I just wanted to say, my food pantry covers that far down 209.
Okay.
For all of the rundown school districts, so we go to Woolworths and Holland Heights, so if you get calls like that again.
Yep.
We also do delivery, so
Okay,
feel free
well,
to
they-
give me- yeah, I know
they-
you're right
yeah,
here, but. if
they
it's
handled it, I mean,
ever out
I
there,
called one of the volunteers and, he immediately sprung into action. I'll actually, it was Bob, and I will say thank you to him for doing that, and he made the contact, and I gave him the phone number of the woman, and they got the person food in a relatively short amount of time, and the system worked. So that's really my main concern is that the system. So-
Yeah, well, they could have gotten twice the food is what I'm saying. I could all, but just so you know, for the future, I cover that area.
It's fine, it's fine. I just, okay. Action on minutes. Town of Rochester Town Board accepts the minutes of the February 1st, 2024 regular business meeting as was amended. February 8th, 2024 workshop meeting and the February 29th, 2024 audit meeting as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Any additions, any further additions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. I did apologize, I did not get the breakdown, so the Town of Rochester Town Board accepts donations in total of $162.43. I neglected to get the breakdown, but we can adopt the total amount.
142.43, St. Paul is.
Okay, at $20
Is
from
June
Joan. Thank you. Thank you. I knew the $20. I wasn't sure about the 140. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Next, there are 4 vouchers that I'm gonna ask you if we approve this motion to sign, and I have them here tonight. Town of Rochester Town Board authorizes the town supervisor to make prepayment from the general fund the amounts of $10,341.76 and $1,498.28. From the highway fund, the amounts of $13,386.30 and $2,600.35. The MVP Healthcare for the March 2024 employee and retiree healthcare plans respectively. The MVP billing was received late for the February voucher due to a cybersecurity issue involving the vendor's billing bank.
Were they involved in that?
What's that?
Were they involved in that?
I don't know. They just, they sent me a very generic bill. It's not the normal bill, but,
There's a really big cyber attack.
I have a feeling it probably was part of it. So, anyway, I'd like to prepay it. So, do I have that motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Okay. I'm gonna just pass these around. If there's 4 total vouchers,
That's about something like 20 million they paid, so I don't know if it was like that.
Yeah. it could very well be. So there you go. Thank you very much for that. I doubt they would turn off our accounts, but I didn't want to wait, and these are due March 15th. So you would have normally gotten these last week in the vouchers. Next is appointment to the Climate Smart Task Force. The Town of Rochester Town Board appoints Stephen Springston, Julie Goldscheid, Valeria. Do you know how to pronounce her last name? I'm going to butcher it. Giorgiuto. And did you have any further discussion, Julia?
No.
Okay, so we'll leave that.
We'll
for
try
now.
to get
Oh, I
those on
actually
the.
read in for older dates now.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so we will hold off on her. To serve as members of the Climate Smart Task Force, and request the town clerk advise the oath of office requirement if required. I don't think it's required because it's an ad hoc committee, so.
But safe.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Second. I'll let you get.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Okay, next. So let's make the motion, then we'll have discussion. So we'll make a motion in a second. Town of Rochester Town Board, as requested by the Ulster County Magistrates Association, authorizes the town supervisor to sign a memorandum of agreement between the Ulster County Sheriff and the town of Rochester, allowing the town of Rochester to utilize the Ulster County Jail in prearranged circumstances as presented. I'm gonna make the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion. So Mary Lou, feel free now, and I apologize. I just didn't want
Okay,
to.
well, actually, I kind of wanted Kyle to weigh in on this, which is why I was bringing it up at that time. David Delahunt didn't seem to think that OCA would have a problem with putting something in there, you know, a 5-year and then renewable. What I was gonna suggest was that you pass a motion with that in place, and then maybe Kyle and Dave could bring to that for discussion to OCA. And if they said, no, that's gonna slow things down, then next week at your workshop meeting, you could revise it to take that portion out.
So at yesterday's meeting, what Dave said is, he is the facilitator of all this.
Mm-hmm.
These will be presented to the the OCA people, the powers that be. They don't know when that meeting is scheduled. It may or may, so Dave isn't gonna be the one to say yes or no. That group who has to authorize this will be.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, but they don't know when they're meeting. So the point of redoing it next week, I doubt they're meeting before next week.
No, I'm sure they're not, but Dave had talked to them in the first place, has had contact with them. And that's how we knew that they weren't going to approve the judges only participating if the law enforcement did not participate. So I thought he might have a contact that he could say, hey, is this going to fly? If not, they'll change it.
Okay.
So do with it what you will.
Understood. So
what
anybody
is
have
the
any-
force? So I do feel like we discussed it at length. I just am curious about what the force of having a date and what's the risk versus. that we would
Right
have to
now,
communicate?
it's an on-ending contract. So if you or the court say, wow, this is not working, there's not really a way out. And, as Justice Burnett said, oh, well, the intention is that, if you don't want to do it, you can withdraw. There's no provision that says that in the contract. They'll probably be fine. And you know what? We'll probably, hopefully, never need it for our constables. So, it's, you can weigh that.
I'm down to do it. I think it makes sense to have some kind of provision. I just think it's weird to have a contract with Civic, but I'm doing that later.
I do hear what Kyle said, that, if we add something and it's different than the others, it may red flag it, and then it comes back to us, and then we can work to the agreement. I will tell you, there were some other, the reason the town of Ulster is not signing this, and I'm not speaking out of school on this, because there's a couple sections that their board and supervisor disagreed with the language. And that is why they are not signing at the moment. They are trying to resolve that, but they also have the ability in a different type of situation where they are prepared to continue in their own operation in the interim while they resolve this, whereas we do not have that same luxury. And again, apologies, this would have been to you guys 6 months ago, and I thought it pertained to us. It was only about 2 weeks ago that I was told, yes, Rochester has to sign this. So that's why the rush.
It's weirdly structured.
What's that?
It's weirdly structured.
It is.
I feel strong-armed in being asked to sign this.
It is.
Yeah.
And I still don't feel like we got a valid answer as to why one has anything to do with the other, but.
I was
Yeah,
more
like-
confident last week with my answer of yes than I am after the presentation.
Yeah. OCA has, what Dave Delahunt said, I asked him that question point blank yesterday. And his response to me was, if there is a police agency in your community and you don't sign, your town cannot take part.
But
Because I said specifically what other towns that don't have them, but that is the decision that OCA has made, and they are the ones who have to approve this.
So a state trooper takes a person that they've arrested to the county for arraignment, and the county's gonna say, oh, what town was in? Rochester? Sorry,
I don't know.
take them back there.
I don't know.
It depends on. if they'll do that.
But I'm not,
I just,
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
I don't think it's something we should
I
do.
think
I don't,
But all court systems are victim side.
No, I
so,
know.
like,
I don't think it's something we should be
more
playing
is
games
not-
and semantics, personally. I think,
No,
because.
it's not semantics.
Well, I understand it's not semantics, but if our constables can only make an arrest if they witness it firsthand.
Well, now at
That's
this
not, that's a
point, I
different
feel,
issue.
at this
The
point,
issue
I
from
feel-
this is if we want to have to make our courts our justices to try to find a public defender in the middle of the night or not.
Yeah, we don't.
That is the issue from this,
Yeah.
not whether our constables are arrested or not, they legally can, that's.
I agree, that's.
Right.
Yeah.
The next,
This is if we want to be responsible for having to have a public defender.
and for
or
that,
doing
I
that
say,
for any-
no, we don't want that, so yes.
Yes.
we should.
And the question we're trying to decide right now is, do we try to put a date in it or not? That's, to me, I'm gonna vote for it either way. So
I mean,
whatever
I
we
am
decide.
too, like, I think that's not my job, I guess, like, I feel like that's the people putting this programs together's job, like.
But
And
the
I will
question
tell
is
you-
about the date thing.
I will tell you, every other town has signed it as is, so if the date issue becomes an issue.
It's-
As a group of towns, I think we can all go to OCA
Yeah, I
and
think we
say,
should say,
there's an
OCA,
issue.
we sign on, we didn't want to be left behind, we didn't wanna
Yeah.
get into town of Ulster's issue by messing with the language, but you guys should really consider having a say.
And we were told, it's public record, we were told that you can choose to opt out at any point in the future, so.
Yeah. Okay,
All right.
Okay,
Okay,
call the vote.
yeah, I agree.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have, okay. Kate, I'm gonna sign this and leave it with Stephanie, and if we can just, I'll leave a note up for her, if we can get it to the right people tomorrow. Thank you. I appreciate your assistance on that.
I mean, aren't like dog officers also police officers?
No,
Mm-mm.
no, they're animal control officers. They're not-
I thought
Right,
it's the
well-
police officers, animal controls.
You know what, they may be, like the surrogates court clerks are peace
Yeah.
officers.
So
There's
does every
there's
town
a
have
lot
dog
of, there's a lot of peace officers.
I know, and I don't know if they're, yeah, okay. Sorry.
I agree.
Did you just
Not for
uncover?
long.
You
Not
need
for
to
long,
write,
long term.
let them know
I'm gonna let them know.
that we need to include all of them.
The SUNY Ulster security guards are also peace officers,
Yeah.
as are the SUNY New Paltz.
Do they carry
Yeah.
that?
Yes. I don't know about Ulster. New
I thought
Paltz.
SUNY's at this point had actual police officers.
They-
You know what, I could be wrong.
They do, in New Paltz they do.
They have
Yeah.
both.
Yeah, yeah, we used to have, at Potsdam, separate security, and now they're actually police officers, New York State. They're like the regular New York State police, but they're New York State police officers.
Okay. Okay, moving on to resolution G. Town of Rochester Town Board authorized the town supervisor to sign a contract between the County of Ulster, Municipal Corporation, and County of the State of New York with principal offices 244 Fair Street, Kingston, New York. Town of Rochester Municipal Corporation with principal offices at 50 Scenic Road for the 2024 Youth Borough Administration. That motion?
Make that motion.
Second. What this is the funding that they give us for the summer program. It is a $1,000. They got it way ahead. Normally, this is in the fall when they're finally getting around to asking us for it. This year, they really jumped the gun and want it before the summer program. So I'm just asking to authorization to sign it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstains. Next, we'll make the resolution and then I'll explain. Pursuant to town law, Article 3, Section 21B, and the town board, thank you, authorizes the following appointments in accordance with the adopted grade and wage schedule, contingent on completion of any qualifications or certifications as may be required to fulfill the position. All appointments directly dealing with youth shall be contingent on completion of background checks. All appointees shall serve for a term of 1 year, effective January 1, 2024. Subject to the pleasure of the town board or as mandated by New York State statute. The 4 constables are there. The probationary one is because the other 3 have completed their 520 hours of employment with the town of Rochester. Constable Lopez just started with us last fall and has not completed his hours yet. So I'll make the motion. Do I have a second? The reason we're doing this was deferred from our organizational meeting. I have now had clarification from both Office of New York State Justice Court not Justice Court, Department of Justice Service, DCJS, sorry. Department of Criminal Justice Service and the Ulster County Personnel Office. 2 of our constables that we have used and had for a period of time are corrections officers. Department of Criminal Justice has come back with that in past they allowed their training to be reciprocal, but it was not what their rules said. They just more or less ignored that rule. They are now enforcing that rule. So 2 of our constables, unless they do the training, are not eligible. They both did take the test. They both can do the training. And we're still working out if they can be appointed, because if you're appointed, you have 1 year to do the training. So we are still working on that. The other 2 constables that are previously were employed who are not on this list have not resigned, but they have not answered text, calls, or emails since August for assignment of duty. And as their position expired on December 31, I am not recommending that we reappoint them. So what this will mean is currently we have 4 constables. We await the personnel office telling us who we can offer it to from the list next. I'm still in communication with them to tell us next steps, but we had to remove the 2 that were in existence first before we could do that next step. It's very confusing.
What about that county exam that they didn't score high enough?
Yeah,
That's what they.
Oh, that's the same thing with the
county
corrections
exam.
officer.
The county exam was given in July. We were given the scores in October and told to proceed, and that's what started the discussion of, we are the only community who has constables. The county personnel office did not fully understand the state training requirements. I put the 2 of them in contact with each other and got them communication, which is why the 2 that are corrections officers had to be removed. So what this is doing is finalizing the resolution that we should have done in January to appoint these 4 constables to continue service, and we will continue to try to resolve appointing new ones based on county personnel.
Yeah, and so the county test is the one thing, and then they also have required training. So anyone that has only trained to be a corrections officer is now ineligible.
I understand that the corrections officers are not eligible because it doesn't transfer. I was confused about the testing, which I thought was a separate issue.
It is.
Yeah, it
The
is.
testing is the New York State Civil Service test. It's a
So all
competitive
4 of
position.
these are
All 4 of these
eligible from
are eligible, but the reason they are still provisional, we are not awarding them based on that test yet until the county tells us to, because the list has to be worked in order. So that is the reason the provisional is still attached. They are provisionally appointed until the county tells us we can appoint them permanently. But this way, they are operating without appointment right now. We're in March and I want to get it appointed. So as soon as the county tells me, now that the 2 have been removed from the list, that we're no longer eligible, now the county will proceed in telling us who will appoint.
I remember last time we talked about it, we asked if we could get information about the tests that they were given. Did we ask for that?
I did not, because I don't know if they will, because it's a state test, and I don't know if they will give us what the test is, because it's a test that they give other people in, you know what I mean? It's so there's other people taking that same test when they offer it. So I don't think that they're going to tell us.
They don't change it.
I don't know, but the test is the civil service portion to be eligible And I don't know who makes up that test. It's a state. The training is of the actual job responsibilities is justice court or criminal justice court, not court, criminal justice administration. So, too many acronyms. But yes, I apologize. I do remember. I can try to find out, but I don't think they're going to give
Or
us the
like
test.
any information about that. It was such a confusing thing. I feel like information from them would be great.
Okay, I will try to get whatever I can from them.
Thank you.
So I have a motion and a second.
Can I just ask one question that I was asked to ask for do they have to get sworn in again? Because they already did it twice this year.
Well,
Technically.
well, no, because they were sworn in based on last year's,
The
list, and
We held their appointments over until reappointment, so now they're reappointed. So
Are
if
we
they,
voting on each person?
no, we're voting on, unless somebody wants to, we're voting on.
I'm fine with one block. I just wanted, they just asked me to ask.
Okay.
When I talked to Rich about the elder program to see if they had to go again or not.
So, but just, we are, the thing that you said that I think is most important for us to be aware of is it's possible that the county could come back and we would need to adjust.
Well, at some point, when the county tells us to appoint them to a permanent position,
Yeah.
we will be voting on potentially these people again. The provisional will go away.
Right.
And the probationary is of our own
Yeah,
doing.
that
The
one.
provisional means they are provisionally appointed pending the county, and that goes back to the list. But the point is, because the order that the county has to follow the list, 2 of the people on that list were not eligible.
Yeah.
There may be others who are not eligible, and that's for the county to decide, because the county and the state have to coordinate the eligibility. So it's confusing, but I just didn't feel right with them still serving without our official appointment this year. So. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained.
Aye.
And the 2 that are no longer eligible, they've been notified.
They have.
Okay.
They have been notified, and actually the 2 that have not been eligible were notified immediately.
Yeah.
I spoke with both of them. The county will allow them to be on the list still, because then they can have the 1 year to complete the training. But under state rules, they can't work for us
Right.
until they have the training.
Right.
So it's a circular
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
So,
They couldn't be
and
on 2
unfortunately, the county says you can have 1 year to complete the training, but the state says you can't work without the
Yeah.
training, so.
okay.
Okay, this was a request from the Accord Speedway. Town of Rochester Town Board authorizes amendment to the racetrack permit renewal approved with resolution 378 of 2023. That was at our December meeting. Awarded to Accord Speedway Incorporated pursuant to Town of Rochester Code 1074C and all other conditions as specified in Town of Rochester Code 107. The amendment is followed. Our resolution was the town board further accepts the racing schedule as presented for 40 actual racing dates and 8 potential rain dates. Dates listed as rain dates may be utilized only in the case of replacements of a rained or approved event date. They are asking to swap or to remove the date Saturday, June 22nd from their schedule and replace it with June 8th. They are still at 40 events.
Make that motion.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Okay, next, we'll make the resolution and then we'll have discussion, and I'm gonna ask Kate to weigh in as well. So Town of Rochester Town Board authorize the supervisor to enter into agreement with Toshiba DocuWare Cloud 4 software at a cost of $304 a month for a 60-month term and $4,000 for installation, configuration, project management, and training. That's broken down to 20 hours at $200 per hour. That will be paid in monthly installments for the 60 months. The software includes 4 name user licenses and 30 gigabytes of cloud storage. I'm going to make the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Questions?
Didn't you guys approve this when I was gone? Or
So
what
we
did you
approved
guys-
it, but the price changed
Oh.
because
I
now there was a misunderstanding. It was originally proposed as 5 users and the price was at for 5. So the price is reduced. And we also discussed with them adding in the 20 hours, instead of paying it up front, they will spread it over 60 payments. So the $4,000 will be divided by 60 and included in
In the monthly.
the
There's
monthly.
an extra, yes.
Yeah, and the reason for, I did ask Michael, the reason for the 60-month is because it is a cloud-based, it's not a physical software on the computer. So that is the answer that I was given as to why it is a 60-month.
Ridiculous.
We can
This is what Kate
change,
wants to do though.
we can change it at any time in future. And this also is being done under it's in the agreement and I don't have the language, but there was, this was a negotiated price under a municipal agreement.
The 20 hours, is that can be coordinated through the clerk's office? Is that like in person or?
It's, yeah,
It's
go
a,
ahead.
there's a combination, so that's also gonna include the converting of the records over by the engineer and the training for the users with, the engineer as well.
Did they tell you, like, are they doing like 2 days or can you break
They
it up? by
haven't,
two?
but they guesstimated it'd be an average of 20 hours total, for everything.
The hard drive that we got when we converted all the building code records, they will take that and convert it over into the cloud, and that's what some of the 20 hours were for. And the balance of it will be for the training. It won't be that the 20 hours will be over a 5-year period. It'll all be in one period of time, but
It'll be great to have those, the ones on the drive in the.
yes.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's gonna work for Kate, because it's hard to get people together and.
Yeah. And we're starting with those 4 offices and I'm sure at some point we will consider including, the supervisor's office has a lot of records. The recreation has a smaller number of records, but these 4 are the big 4 for records, so.
And what I took from it is start small, because you're paying for a service that we might not even be able to fill yet. Because
Yeah.
There's so much time. We have a lot of work ahead of us
Yeah.
before every department even has access to us. So, I felt better when they told us that we can amend it. So I was a little nervous about the cloud storage, with the building department already being at 17.3 gigabytes.
Yeah.
We were at 20, so I was like, well, is 30 even gonna be enough? And the way they explained it was perfect. Like if 30 is not enough, we'll go, when once we get to that point, then we can move up to, 40 or 50. But don't pay for it until you are getting ready
Until
to
we're actually
utilize it.
full.
And if we make changes increasing, we don't kick into a new contract cycle. We're still in the 60-month cycle. It's just
We're upgrading. the
we're
amount of
upgrading,
storage.
yes.
Will you ask if they would allow me, if it worked out to shadow like the training?
Oh, the
Not,
shadow
yeah,
training?
not as a user, but just
Yeah,
to
I'm sure.
make sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is that, could you?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's the user is the login info. We can have as many people as they feel comfortable and as Kate wants to train can. But the user,
Yeah.
like the user for the clerk's office will be multiple, be Christina, Kate, and Courtney. But the user for building department will be Courtney and Alyssa. So I mean, so. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Kate, I'm gonna sign that one and get it to you as well. So. Next, Mary Lou had some issues on this, but I wanted to move it forward to at least just have a discussion about it. Town of Rochester Town Board authorized the town supervisor to sign a contract between the County of Ulster and Municipal Corporation and the County of the State of New York with principal offices at 244 Fair Street, Kingston, New York, 12401. And the Town of Rochester Municipal Corporation with principal offices 50 Scenic Road, Accord, New York, 12404. As subrecipient of a subaward of funds provided under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, for the purpose of building public restrooms and replacing the roof to the existing pavilion at the Town of Rochester Park located at 50 Scenic Road, Accord, New York, in accordance with the terms and conditions as set forth in the agreement. Mary Lou did express some, actually, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Mary Lou expressed some concerns with the contract. I have called and emailed, have not gotten answers back. The issues are the park pavilion roof that we completed already. It is part of the match. We're getting 100,000. The project is estimated at 275,000. So we are matching 175. The pavilion roof, whether we included it in the application to beef up our application. Even if the pavilion roof was not part of the match, we still would have the $100,000 match. So, but because the pavilion was mentioned in our application, I agree. The problem was there were stipulations in there that we can't achieve because the work is already done. Things like it would be signed off by a county. Was it a county? Help me out, Mary Lou. What was the?
Yeah, it was that we would give notice to the county when the final inspection was being done. We would have an engineer or an architect do that, and we would invite the county to come along.
Yeah, we still can be, it's there, it didn't go anywhere, but we had, that our building inspector inspected it and signed off on it, but he's not a licensed engineer or architect, so.
It's possible that they would want us to do something more, I guess, right?
I mean.
And
Sign off.
in fairness, we were told verbally by the county ARPA office that we could begin those projects because the contract was still stuck in the county attorney's office and did not exist at the time.
Right, and the contract is written as retroactive, so these projects can be included, but we didn't know what stipulations they had on the project till it was
Well,
done.
we want to hold off on signing it till I get answers, which that's kind of my feeling, although the longer we hold off, the longer we don't get the money and.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like if we could have them sign off on it at a later date.
Yeah, they can sign off on it when we have the bathrooms inspected, just because we finished it before the final set, that shouldn't be a reason.
I'm okay with that. I just
we
wanted to
can't
bring
submit
Mary's concerns to you guys. So.
Just because the contract wasn't like voted back.
It's just, we should just be aware it's possible if they did that there would be something that they want us to do and increase the project cost.
And because it's ARPA money, there might be very strict.
Yeah, we can wait and do it at the workshop if you want to see if you can get answers between now and then.
I can try, yeah.
I mean, I'm fine, I personally.
It's up to
think
you.
I'm fine with us signing it.
We could also-
Get done on grants, because they wanna give you.
We can authorize you to sign it, and then if you haven't heard back by
Okay,
next week.
okay. So then, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I put this in with the hopes of getting a resolution done that I did not get done, but I'm gonna just move this into the start of discussion. So last week, we approved the community preservation hiring the consultant. I spoke with Ted. I said, what are our next steps? He said, you need to create a committee to review. He suggests 5 people, no more than that. He said, because it's got to be short and quick and get done. What I would like to propose, and this was the intent of my resolution, and I can write the resolution for next week, is that we utilize what we've done in the past is each of us provides a name. So what I'm proposing is that each of us comes back with a name of who we, talk to the people, come up with a person. Rather, if we go through the whole advertising, interviewing, we're going to kick it another month down the road. I think because we need to have this resolution done by July to get on the referendum ballot, we need to get this committee going. We all know people who are probably I've already thought of a couple names, and how do people feel about doing it that way? And for Emily, what we've done with other committees is each board member has recommended one name that we've checked with that person, and then the
Yeah.
board appoints those 5 people
Sounds good
instead
to
of
me.
doing an open interview process.
I'm down with that.
Didn't want to.
What is the, do we have, other than
The scope of work, if you look back at the agreement, the scope of work is kind of the type of people. So what they do is they work with GIS, they work to identify
Right.
parcels that are the target parcels that we are looking to preserve as a community.
Okay.
It could be farmers, it could be people who have information of
And then they-
wetlands.
Got it. Okay, that
Do people-
works for me.
Does that make sense to
Yep.
people? Okay. I will come next week with a resolution, but do we want to try to pick our 5 names and just agree that we will bring 5 names next week? Each of us will bring a name
Yes.
before the.
And tell
next
everyone
meeting?
we talked to, if another board member asks them, that they should let the person know.
Fair enough.
No, I'm saying you tell your person. That way, if another board member comes to your person, they'll be like, sorry.
So they can say, oh, no, sorry, I don't want to do it. And then you can appoint them anyway. Okay,
Hard choices.
well, do you want more time? Do you want to go to the audit meeting? I just want to get it going by April.
I mean, I like deadlines.
I mean,
so
I'm
whatever
not
the deadline-
here. I'm most likely not here next week, so.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I would
I thought you
prefer
were
the
here.
audit meeting. I'd still up the air. I'm not sure what they switched our flight.
Well, the audit
times.
meeting is the 27th and next meeting is the 14th, so it's 2 weeks later. Let's do it at the audit meeting then. That
Okay.
gives everybody a little more.
Then we have a little more.
Oh,
time to
and
also talk
also,
about
next
it.
meeting is holy sacred only mapping.
Yes, but if I had to jam a resolution in, I will, but if I don't have to, I won't. So fair enough.
Holy sacred only mapping next
Okay.
week. Okay.
That's okay. Then we'll do this at the audit meeting, but
Okay.
come with a name at the audit meeting. Be
Does
prepared.
holy sacred only audit mean I'm off only zoning mapping mean
Yes.
I'm off next week?
Yes, we are
Okay.
talking about the zoning map next week.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving into discussion items, I'm gonna skip the Charter Spectrum proposal because there's nothing new other than Michael and Mary Lou have a meeting. The cloud phone system, I'm gonna defer that for tonight, given the time frame. The Housing Action Fund, there is a time-sensitive ability of a grant opportunity that I shared with you in Charlotte. You probably already knew about it. Ty made us aware of it. If we want to apply, the due date for application, I think was it sometime in April,
Yeah, no, it's May.
May?
May 10th.
So we don't have to do anything about it tonight, but if you want to apply, just think about it. And then I'm gonna wait for Aaron to come back because I'm willing to defer these. Well, the Hamlet zone, we should talk about. The other 2 are not time sensitive. We can defer those 2 local laws for another time. Because they can't go into effect until next July, a year from July. So, and they would, a year from March 1st of next year is when those exemptions would take effect, so.
So we have time.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about the Hamlet zoning map changes? And I'm just gonna wait for Aaron to come back and I'll explain my reasoning for including the other properties other than the one that filed the zoning permit. So, I'll just.
I mean, I have had a change of heart slightly since the last meeting. On including the other.
Okay, well, let's wait till Aaron's, we're all here with each person say.
Good to have.
So Aaron, we are. I just mentioned that the Housing Action Fund, there is a grant opportunity that's due in May. It's in your folders. I just want people to look at it and consider it. With the 2 property tax exemptions, we're going to defer because they don't need to be done in the immediate future. But I did want to talk about the Hamlet zoning map changes. So we got a request from one resident, official request for the zoning district change. I included 4 other parcels. my reasoning is this would complete the changes that we have talked about for that one hamlet zone. So my reasoning of adding the other parcels was to basically start to complete the project. The other 4 parcels, one of them is the former boxing camp that the gentleman, we were not proposing it to be rezoned, it's in AR3. Currently, we proposed it to stay in AR3. That's the one that if you click on the parcel viewer, it says it's in Hamlet. But I confirmed with the Ulster County, that is a mistake. It is indeed in the AR3 zone, which is rezoned it. It is also in the county ag district, but in talking with Bert Samuelson, he believes it was included in the ag district when that whole farm was probably all one property. Because he said normally there's a date of inclusion and there's no date by this parcel. And we did get at that public meeting, we did get a request from the gentleman to be zoned Hamlet, a verbal request. The other property, the one at, I think it's the one at 22 Sampsonville Road. Yeah, it was one that we had proposed because it's next door to the town's property. And it was in our original proposal to change it from AR3 to Hamlet. It's not agricultural. And then the other 2 are ones that were changed to I in 2009, along with the one that filed the official request. They are both single-family homes. I can tell you from having been on that committee, those 3 were changed to I, along with Gatos was business and was changed to I in the hopes that an industrial park would sort of create itself back in Old Mine Road, because there was some industrial there, but none of the industrial had frontage on a road. So that was the goal. It hasn't happened in 16 years, 15 years. So I'm inclined if we change one, that we should change the other. So that's my reasoning for including the others, but I'm open to doing just the one if we want.
Just process wise, I understand your reasoning and but process wise, I think just in terms of when we have an individual applying, considering that alone, and I think we're gonna have a mapping meeting in a week. These other parcels, I think we should just include in that discussion and
I'm fine with
consider
that.
the one on its own, and I think that just holistically for residents.
Okay.
Communicates a better process. I don't know how that.
I was gonna suggest the same thing, because I didn't want confusing to be had, because we said we weren't going to change the map to everyone until this process, till a later date in the process when we had a meeting about it first. And so I don't want, when one person applied, for us to change other parcels that did not apply and it to cause like a ripple rumor effect that the map went through and we didn't have a meeting or something like that. I don't want a mass confusion to happen about the map.
But I think we should consider these, because I think you have lots of thoughtful reasons behind it.
Just not as part of this.
Just not as
Yeah.
part of this, yeah, I'm fine with
Okay.
them in the map changes, but I think it should be standalone for only the person that applied.
Michael and Emily, and I'm fine with that. I was just looking for process in terms of, grouping, but I understand your reasoning as well. And I'm fine with that.
That sounds fine.
Okay, so we're gonna remove sections 2 through 5. So what I will do is I will bring this, because we're scheduling for public hearing tonight isn't gonna speed it up, because we have to refer it to the county, so I'll come with it. Can I break the rule?
It's on the map, it's a map.
It's part of the
It's
map,
part of the
okay,
map.
so I'm gonna present this new local law with just section 1, 6, and 7, 2 through 5 removed at the next meeting. Kate won't need to come.
That's what I said, Kate still doesn't have to come.
Still, I don't want to know about that.
So I'll present that next week with those
Okay.
changes, and then, but thank you for hearing me out.
If we're doing the other changes on the map, of the whole map, I would be a no-brainer to just do it, but.
That's fine.
Hey,
Okay.
Kate, you wanna go out next Thursday?
Sure.
Okay, so,
Go to the new barn. Yeah.
so then we'll do a motion to adjourn in memoriam. First, Wilfred Neff, a former town supervisor and dairy farm, longtime dairy farmer in the town, passed. Definitely our thoughts are with Thomas T.J. Rinaldi and his family, corrections officer, Lucy Padilla, Joan Hagan, Eldred Marsh, Jack Smith, Naomi Price, Edward Richmond, Christopher Pinkrus, the people of Palestine and Israel, people of Ukraine, and all suffering worldwide from the COVID-19 virus.
And Mike, I have one more name after that. If we could also add Nancy Bruchwald.
How do you spell the last? You know?
BREW and dash SCHWALL.
Oh,
And it was Bruchwald.
Got it. Okay, absolutely.
I like that one.
A motion, second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Great, thank you all.
Wow, thank you guys.
Thank you, Brando.